Hello there, and welcome back to the Sleep Science. The air around you hums softly, like the low thrum of a rocket engine idling somewhere in your imagination. You can almost feel the vibration against your skin, a whisper of static mixed with that faint metallic tang that astronauts swear clings to everything once you've left Earth. Outside, a red haze drifts across the horizon. The planet is Mars, raw, dry, and waiting. You probably won't survive this, not if you step out there without a suit. But that's half the charm of the thought, isn't it? The danger makes the dream feel real. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Drop your location and local time in the comments so I can see where in the galaxy you're listening from tonight. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand at the edge of dawn on Mars. The sky isn't really red. It's more like a washed-out butterscotch, a soft pastel bruised by dust and thin air. The sun rises small and far away, a weak coin of light that paints the world in shades of burnt copper. Your boots press into the soil and lift tiny puffs of fine powder that hang in the air far longer than they should. Each particle is charged, clinging to your suit like glitter from a cosmic craft store. The first human footprints, the first stirring of breath through the filters, and that uneasy realization that the entire planet is utterly silent except for you. It's odd how quiet can feel heavier than noise. You half expect the crunch of leaves, the whisper of wind through trees, but there's none of that here, just the sound of your own heartbeat, made audible through your helmet's comms. When NASA's Pathfinder lander touched down back in 1990, it broadcast those faint beeps of success to Earth, a celebration of machine endurance. You remember watching that old footage? The Sojourner rover creeping forward like a brave metal puppy, its wheels etching the same dust you now disturb. Historians still argue whether that single moment, the first rover rolling free, was the true dawn of human presence here, even though no person had set foot yet. You reach down and scoop a handful of soil. It's not really soil, the scientists back home keep reminding you. It's regolith, a blend of crushed volcanic rock, magnetite and iron oxide that gives the world its rusty hue. It smells faintly of gunpowder when exposed to air inside your suit, a reaction that reminds you this place is not forgiving. Mars doesn't want to kill you exactly, it's just indifferent to your need for air and warmth. A gust rises, carrying dust in lazy spirals. You imagine ancient winds doing the same long before you arrived, shaping dunes that move slower than glaciers. Somewhere behind you, a small habitat dome glints under the dim sun, a temporary refuge inflated from thin plastic and human stubbornness. It looks absurd against the wiltiness, like a camping tent dropped in the middle of nowhere. Yet inside it, heat, pressure and breath all coexist, a fragile bubble of earth clinging to a hostile world. You wander toward a ridge where rocks break the horizon like old bones. They're riddled with fractures, hints of once flowing water frozen in stone. Scientists back home keep sending you coordinates to sample, chasing signs of ancient life that may never have existed. You kneel, brushing dust away with a gloved hand, and think of how the Viking landers in the 1970s first searched for microbes here. The experiments gave contradictory results. Organic molecules maybe, maybe not. And historians still argue whether those faint signals counted as the first sniff of Martian biology or just contamination from Earth. The ridge glows faintly in the morning light. For a second you forget you're millions of kilometers from home. It could be Utah, maybe the rim of the Grand Canyon after a long hike. The similarity is almost rude. Mars pretending to be familiar when it's anything but. You remember reading about how early astronomers thought they saw canals stretching across this planet. Giovanni Schiaparelli called them canali in 1870, meaning channels, but mistranslation turned them into kennels, suggesting Martian engineers at work. The myth persisted for decades, fueled by Percival Lowell's elaborate maps. Humans have been seeing themselves in Mars for centuries, projecting ambition and loneliness across space. You grin at the irony. Now you're actually here, and it's far emptier than anyone imagined. The wind shifts again, dragging the horizon into a slow blur. Dust devils spin like ghost dancers, tall as skyscrapers but silent, beautiful and distant. One twists close enough that you catch its spiral shadow crossing the plain, then fading as quickly as it formed. You think about how NASA's InSight lander, years before you, recorded the vibrations of such storms with its seismometer, tiny tremors that spoke of a restless planet. Mars may be quiet, but it isn't dead. The ground beneath you still sighs and stretches, cracking with thermal stress. Inside your helmet, you hum softly, maybe to fill the silence, maybe to prove you still exist. Your oxygen readout glows green, comforting, though your suit's thermal regulator kicks harder as the temperature drops despite the rising sun. The paradox of Mars, bright daylight and bone-freezing cold. Engineers designed these suits after long debates about mobility versus insulation. Some still insist the old Russian penguin suits used for space station exercise would have worked better here. You chuckle, picturing yourself waddling through dust dunes in neoprene like a grumpy seabird. You pause to take a panoramic scan, the suit camera whirring softly. The image will bounce through orbiters, then across interplanetary space, taking about 14 minutes to reach Earth. By the time anyone sees it, the moment will already be gone. But that's space travel for you, living in the future while everyone else catches up. You remember your first night on Mars vividly. The stars burned sharper than you'd ever seen, the Milky Way a curtain of light unfiltered by air. Phobos drifted overhead, small and quick like a skipping stone. Deimos followed lazily, fainter and more distant. You lay in your sleeping bag inside the dome, the fabric rustling as the air recyclers hissed. The hum became your lullaby, constant and mechanical but somehow reassuring. There's no sound of crickets or rain here, but you find comfort in the rhythm of the machinery keeping you alive. A small monitor beside your cot had shown the outside temperature dropping fast, -90 degrees, then -100. Your breath fogged faintly in the chilled air as heaters cycled on. You taped a photograph of Earth to the wall above your bed, a blue-white swirl taken from orbit. It looked almost fragile, like soap bubble colour patterns trapped in motion. For a moment you thought about how every story, every memory, every human ever born existed on that distant speck. Mars is freedom and exile at once, every pioneer's contradiction. Morning now stretches thin across the plain. You tap the wrist display, time to return before radiation levels climb too high. The thin atmosphere offers no shield against the sun's charged particles. That's why missions schedule outdoor work early and late, avoiding the harsh midday glare. A part of you enjoys the constraint. It's like living inside a carefully choreographed dance with the universe, each step timed to survival. You make your way back toward the dome. The horizon curves subtly, a reminder that this world is smaller than Earth, just over half its diameter. Gravity feels lighter, playful almost. Each stride carries you a little farther than expected. You imagine early explorers on Earth's poles feeling a similar dislocation, stepping onto white deserts that seemed endless, but were finite all along. Historians still argue whether human curiosity is noble bravery or reckless compulsion. Standing here, you can't decide either. Inside the airlock, the transition is ritual. Outer door sealed, air pressure rising with a hiss. Dust shaken off by static fields. You remove your helmet, breathing in the dry, recycled scent of habitat air, like an old basement mixed with plastic and faint coffee. Someone scribbled a joke on the whiteboard. "Remember to close the door, genius." You laugh quietly. Humour survives everywhere. You unclip your gloves and stretch your fingers, noticing fine red stains beneath your nails where dust sneaked through the seals. Even here, Mars insists on marking you. It's as if the planet wants to remind you who's in charge. You glance once more through the small circular window. The dust outside glows faintly under the growing sun, endless and patient. In that moment, you realize something unexpected. You don't feel fear. The planet isn't an enemy. It's a mirror reflecting humanity's stubbornness back at itself. Every rock, every shadow whispers the same truth. You wanted this. To stand here, to touch another world, to find meaning in red dust and silence. You pour a mug of recycled water, close your eyes, and let the hum of life support fill the air. The rhythm of pumps, fans, and valves becomes the new heartbeat of civilization. Somewhere, the first footprints you left outside are already softening, blurred by a slow drift of dust. But they'll remain longer than any print on Earth. No wind, no rain, no ocean to wash them away. You take a slow breath and smile. The first human dawn on Mars has come and gone, and somehow you're still here to tell the story. You wake to a pale blue light, the kind that never really belongs to morning or night. It's launch day light, filtered through concrete hangars and screens, humming with caffeine and countdowns. You've been awake for hours already, pacing the metal floor of the crew prep room, pretending that the thudding in your chest is just excitement and not the gravitational pull of an entire planet trying to keep you close. The air smells faintly of antiseptic and recycled oxygen, sterile comfort. A technician tightens the last strap of your suit and gives a thumbs up so casual it almost feels cruel. Outside, the sky over Cape Canaveral bruises with streaks of pink and grey. There's a superstition about launches that you're not supposed to talk about Earth too fondly once you're suited up. The Russians used to plant a small tree before each cosmonaut left, a ritual of roots before flight. You don't have a tree to plant, only a digital checklist and a schedule that treats emotion like a hazard. Still though, you glance once at the patch of Florida sand outside the viewing window, thinking of the countless footprints there, and how soon even gravity's loyalty will break. The elevator ride to the rocket is strangely quiet. You feel every floor tick by, every metallic sigh of the machinery lifting you toward the sky. The rocket itself is a skyscraper in denial, 70 meters of math and bravado. As you step across the access arm, your boots clank against the walkway, and for a moment you imagine you're walking the plank toward a fiery sea. Below, technicians move like ants in bright suits. You know that in ancient China, black powder rockets once carried small wooden birds skyward as festival toys. Centuries later, you're still doing the same thing, just with higher stakes. Historians still argue whether that moment when humans first harnessed controlled explosion marked the beginning of the space age or merely another kind of warfare. You settle into your couch, body angled toward the stars you can't yet see. The seat molds to your spine, straps pin you like gentle iron fingers. A calm voice reads through final checks. Numbers blur into rhythm, oxygen flow, fuel pressure, suit telemetry, until language itself becomes music. There's an odd serenity to being surrounded by millions of pounds of explosive fuel and feeling completely safe because someone, somewhere, said you should be. When ignition comes, it's less a roar than a tearing away. The vibration doesn't shake you, it pours through you, a deep-chested growl that rattles bone and memory. You think of the first V-2 rockets launched in the 1940s, terrible inventions that nonetheless pointed humanity skyward. The irony never sits comfortably. Our greatest leaps often start with dark shadows. A quirky rumour says one of the Apollo engineers kept a lucky rubber chicken strapped inside the command module for test flights, proof that absurdity can coexist with genius. You wish you had one now. As Earth falls behind, gravity lets go like a tired parent releasing a child's hand. You feel lighter, dizzy, unanchored. Through the small round window, the curve of the planet stretches below, oceans swirling in slow motion, clouds dragging their soft shadows over continents. You spot a glint that might be sunlight bouncing off the Atlantic, or maybe it's the collective wink of 8 billion people who'll never see what you see right now. For a heartbeat, you want to reach out and grab the world before it slips away. But the boosters fire again, and the blue fades to black. Space isn't silent, it's filled with mechanical whispers. Fans spin, valves sigh, a faint hum vibrates through the metal like distant bees. You unclip your helmet, float for the first time, and your stomach somersaults in protest. One of the other crew members laughs over comms. "Welcome to the roller coaster with no track." You manage to chuckle back, swallowing the taste of adrenaline and toothpaste. The first day always feels like your body arguing with physics. You drift toward a porthole. Earth hangs there, impossibly delicate. The same marble that Apollo 17 photographed in 1972. That image became a symbol of environmental awareness, people say. Funny how we had to leave home to notice how fragile it was. You think of the ozone debates, the rising seas, the endless conferences. Historians still argue whether the environmental movement truly began with that single photograph or with the smog-choked cities decades earlier. Either way, the sight of home framed by blackness makes the word precious feel inadequate. As you orbit, you catch glimpses of lightning storms flickering like synapses across continents. You whisper the names, Africa, Asia, the Americas, as though reciting a prayer. Then the engines burn again, and you begin the long spiral outward, trading the comfort of orbit for the raw distance of interplanetary travel. Your spacecraft vibrates, a reminder that every meter between planets is earned through endurance. Days blend quickly in transit. Without sunrise or sunset, time becomes suggestion rather than rule. You set your watch to ship time, a hybrid compromise between mission control and Martian soul schedules. Your body doesn't care. It naps when tired, wakes when cold. Meal packets float like lazy balloons. You chase one with your mouth and miss, laughter muffled by microgravity. Someone quotes a statistic that astronauts lose about 1% of their bone mass per month in zero-G. You knock on your shin and joke that you'll be hollow by arrival. The view outside changes subtly each day. Earth shrinks, the moon fades, and Mars brightens from a faint reddish speck to something tangible. You mark its growing size on the window frame with a bit of tape, like a child tracking height on a doorway. The symbolism isn't lost on you, leaving one home, growing toward another. At night, if you can call it that, you float in your sleep bag, tethered to the wall so you don't drift into the equipment. The hum of life support is steady, a mechanical lullaby. Somewhere your subconscious keeps reaching for the pull of gravity that isn't there. You dream of falling, not down but around, orbiting endlessly like a thought that never resolves. When you wake, droplets of sweat hover in the air before drifting away. You begin to notice small things, the smell of metal, the way crumbs form constellations after every meal, the strange intimacy of a world where nothing stays put unless you tie it down. It's domestic in an absurd way, like camping in a floating closet. The ancients once mapped constellations to navigate the seas. You navigate snack crumbs. Humanity doesn't change much, just the scenery. During a scheduled comms window, a 20-minute delay separates question and answer with Earth. The control team sends jokes, news, and once a recording of waves on a beach. You close your eyes and listen, pretending the static hiss is salt spray. One of your crewmates says she misses rain more than gravity. Another says he misses the smell of wet soil. You quietly admit you miss traffic lights, the tiny certainty that something else out there is moving and obeying the same rules as you. Halfway to Mars, you perform course corrections. The engines fire, their deep rumble shoving you back into your seat. A small plastic dinosaur, your unofficial mascot, floats past the camera, tumbling lazily. It's a nod to the tradition started on the International Space Station, where astronauts bring small toys to signal when they've reached zero gravity. You smile. Humans carry talismans even into vacuum. One day, a minor alarm sounds. CO2 scrubber imbalance. For 2 tense hours, you follow checklists and recalibrate sensors. It's fixed quickly, but the air feels heavier afterward, as though fear itself left residue. You remember reading that early submariners experienced the same panic when oxygen ran thin beneath the sea. Different abyss, same instinct. Historians still debate whether our fascination with exploration stems from curiosity or a quiet death wish. You suspect both. As weeks stretch into months, your body adjusts. The novelty of floating wears off. Now it's just how you exist. Muscles thin, but thoughts sharpen. You record voice logs, reading poetry into the mic because the ship likes the sound of words, or maybe you do. You mention a haiku scribbled by astronaut Koichi Wakata about seeing both sunrise and sunset at once, proof that art and science share the same orbit. Occasionally, you catch Earth again through the telescope, smaller each time. Eventually, it is just a bright star among millions. You realise with a start that if you didn't know better, you couldn't tell which one it was. Home is anonymous now. You whisper goodbye, not dramatic, just necessary, and close the cover. Then comes the quiet stretch where Mars is still too far for detail but close enough to feel inevitable. Days pass measured by coffee packets and navigation checks. You watch tiny ice crystals form at the edges of the viewport where the heater's efficiency dips. They glimmer like frozen breath. You remember that in E69 during Apollo 11, Buzz Aldrin quietly took communion in orbit before stepping onto the moon. A small human gesture in a sea of science. You consider what ritual you'll keep for yourself upon arrival. There's a moment just before Mars capture burn, when you look back one last time. Earth is invisible now, lost in sunlight. You expected grief. Instead, you feel calm. It's like moving away from a childhood home. You don't stop loving it, you just outgrow its gravity. As the engines prepare for the long deceleration, a new light spills across the cabin. Not blue, not white, something in between like copper dust mixed with dawn. You realise it's Mars reflecting off the solar arrays, tinting everything with promise. You take a deep breath, feel the recycled air fill your lungs, and whisper to no one, "Goodbye, Earth." The words drift, weightless, before dissolving into the endless hum of the ship. The days stop having names. Out here, time dissolves into a rhythm of mechanical sighs and soft beeps, a lullaby of circuitry. You float through the ship's narrow spine, one hand on the guide rail, the other holding a pouch of tepid coffee that never quite tastes right. The liquid inside obeys no gravity. It swirls like a lazy jellyfish whenever you squeeze the packet. You've learned to drink slowly, or risk chasing droplets around the cabin like a clumsy cat. Someone once said that coffee on Earth tastes of morning. Up here, it tastes of persistence. Your cabin is smaller than a walk-in closet padded with grey foam to muffle sound. Every wall hums faintly, a reminder that air, heat and sanity are all being manufactured for you in real time. You've decorated it with a few scraps, photos, a doodle of Mars drawn by a kid at a school outreach event, a patch of Velcro holding your toothbrush hostage. Minimalism wasn't a choice, it was necessity. Still, you find a strange comfort in knowing that everything you own can be reached without moving your feet. When you push off toward the central module, your motion is silent but not graceful. You bounce off a handrail, mutter something creative under your breath, and spin gently until you manage to grab the next grip. The others tease you over comms. Floating never really becomes natural. It's more like an ongoing negotiation with Newton. A tiny misjudgment, and you're suddenly an upside-down philosopher spinning in slow motion. The ship is a tube of contradictions, part laboratory, part dorm room, part confessional booth. The recycled air smells faintly of ozone and curry because apparently freeze-dried dinners hold grudges. Each day follows an itinerary as precise as a heartbeat. Exercise, maintenance, research, sleep. You pedal the resistance bike for 2 hours, tethered by bungee cords, watching data scroll on a screen that measures how fast your bones are forgetting gravity. The numbers aren't comforting. NASA once found that astronauts on the ISS lost up to 1% of their bone density per month despite rigorous workouts. You run that math in your head and picture yourself arriving on Mars with skeletons made of chalk. To distract yourself, you look out the window. Stars don't twinkle here. They burn with steady arrogance. You catch the occasional glimmer of a passing asteroid, each one a slow-moving time capsule from the dawn of the solar system. Historians still argue whether the first asteroids charted by Giuseppe Piazzi in 1801 marked the start of modern astronomy, or just another case of humans labelling what they don't understand. Either way, you whisper a small greeting to each one, as though politeness might keep them at a respectable distance. Around day 40, if days still matter, the ship drifts through a pocket of cosmic radiation that sets off the detectors. It's harmless, mission control assures you, but the faint crackle over the radio sounds like ghosts brushing past the antenna. You imagine cosmic rays as invisible rain, pattering against the hull, rewriting tiny fragments of your DNA with every drop. A fringe rumour you once read claimed that long-term exposure to space radiation might induce mild hallucinations or even flashes of déjà vu. You haven't seen any pink elephants yet, though last night you dreamed of standing barefoot in your old backyard, gravity tugging at your toes like nostalgia. You keep a journal on a tablet, nothing dramatic, just observations. The entries grow increasingly poetic. Day 42, ship hums like an old refrigerator remembering a song. It's ridiculous, but it helps. On the ISS, astronauts kept similar logs, and historians still argue whether those private reflections will someday be considered literature or merely data. You hope for the former, it feels more human that way. Occasionally, you and the crew gather near the panoramic window for Earth check. Even from millions of kilometers away, the planet still gleams, a fragile sapphire adrift in darkness. The view never fails to quiet everyone. Someone whispers that you can almost see the Amazon shimmer, and you all nod even though it's impossible. A small tender lie shared among travellers. One crewmate jokes that if they squint hard enough they can spot their apartment. You laugh, not because it's funny, but because laughter is a way of keeping oxygen emotional. Meals are group rituals. You velcro your pouches to the wall, snip the corner with scissors and slurp in synchronized silence. Sometimes the menu rotation brings Mars lasagna, a freeze-dried concoction whose flavour suggests punishment more than comfort. You trade it for someone's protein tikka, proving that capitalism survives even in vacuum. To break monotony, you invent holidays, Halfway There Day, Sock Liberation Day, and the ever-popular Pretend There's Cheese Day. Humour is oxygen too. During long maintenance stretches, you float near the observation bay, listening to the faint vibration of pumps beneath the deck. The sound reminds you of whales singing, low and resonant. You wonder if whales would understand this endless migration through black water. Once, early in the 20th century, an oceanographer claimed he could track whale calls halfway across the Pacific, but nobody believed him until decades later. Historians still debate whether that skepticism reflected scientific caution or simple arrogance. You feel kinship with those whales, both you and they calling through vast invisible distances. One afternoon, the commander reads aloud from a tattered paperback of the Martian Chronicles. The pages float like delicate sails, and everyone listens, eyes half closed. Bradbury's words feel prophetic, humans chasing new worlds only to carry their ghosts with them. You nod along. Every person on this ship brought a ghost or two, the scent of rain, the face of someone left behind, the memory of gravity's embrace. Out here, nostalgia is the heaviest cargo. Week 9 brings the first real challenge. A micrometeorite punctures an external panel. Nothing catastrophic, just a polite reminder from the universe that you're fragile. The alarm shrieks, you grab tools, patch the breach with practiced efficiency. Your hands shake afterward, adrenaline turning your fingertips into tuning forks. Later, you learn the object was likely no bigger than a grain of sand. Funny how something so small can make an entire spaceship bleed air. You add it to your growing list of space trivia. Big dangers often arrive microscopic. The captain schedules a morale night. Someone cues up old Earth music, Fleetwood Mac of all things, and you all float in the dark listening to voices recorded half a century ago. The sound travels oddly in zero-G, filling corners like warm fog. You hum along, and for a few minutes the ship doesn't feel mechanical at all. It feels like a campfire story whispered to the void. A crew psychologist once noted that music stabilizes circadian rhythms during long missions. You just know it keeps the silence from getting ideas. Around day 100, you notice how the human body adapts in strange ways. Your spine has stretched almost 5 centimeters. You're officially taller, but not any wiser. The downside, back pain, as if your skeleton's confused about where to hang its weight. You joke that Mars will have to build taller doorways. There's something both miraculous and absurd about biology's flexibility. Evolution improvising in real time. Scientists once argued whether Homo sapiens should still count as a terrestrial species when our bones rewrite themselves in orbit. The debate continues, and you are the footnote. Communication delays grow longer as Mars draws closer, yet paradoxically farther in signal terms. You send a message to Earth, a simple, still okay, Miss Gravity, Miss Pizza. It'll take nearly 20 minutes to arrive, another 20 for a reply. Conversation becomes correspondence, dialogue becomes diary. The ship feels larger for those 40 minutes of waiting, each second stretching like taffy. You start to appreciate slowness. It's the universe's way of forcing mindfulness. Sleep is elusive. Without gravity, your body forgets how to settle. You drift, tethered, listening to the air vents murmur lullabies. Dreams turn geometric, floating squares of colour, looping corridors. You wake sometimes convinced you've fallen, though there's nowhere to fall. In the old Mir station, cosmonauts repeatedly tied their heads with elastic straps so their brains would remember down. You consider trying it, but decide dignity is already scarce enough. On day 130, you pass within range of a small asteroid field. Nothing cinematic, just scattered pebbles glinting in sunlight. You spot one shaped like a teapot, swear to it. When you report it jokingly, Mission Control responds dryly, "Copy that, boo," confirming Russell's teapot. You grin at the philosophical in-joke, the invisible teapot Bertrand Russell once used to mock unfalsifiable claims. Out here, you're orbiting literal metaphors. Midway through the voyage, the psychological tests begin. Each morning you answer questions about mood, focus, and interpersonal friction. Rate your current optimism on a scale of 1 to 5. You hover over 3, then drift upward to 4. Honesty matters, but so does morale. The psychologist back home will pass your responses weeks from now, long after the emotions have shifted. The lag turns self-reporting into archaeology. Despite the monotony, small wonders persist. You watch a droplet of water drift near a patch of sunlight and realise it's magnifying the starfield beyond, turning cosmic dust into fireworks. You take a photo, label it Accidental Universe in a Drop. There's poetry in physics when you're patient enough to see it. When exercise ends, you float by the hydroponics experiment. tiny green leaves pushing stubbornly through their gel medium. Lettuce, mostly. One of the first successful space courses dating back to 2015 aboard the ISS. The record says it tasted like hope and plastic. You lean close, inhale the faint chlorophyll scent, and swear it's the most Earth-like aroma left in existence. Sometimes you talk to Mars itself. "We're coming," you whisper. "Be gentle." And the planet doesn't answer, of course, but I think the act feels necessary. Humans have always spoken to the unknown: caves, oceans, gods, algorithms. Speech is how you plant a flag before your feet ever touch ground. As you near the halfway mark, sunlight grows sharper, less filtered by distance. It paints the ship's panels gold. You float there a while, eyes half closed, basking in radiance that took 8 minutes from the sun and 4 months of courage from you. There's warmth even in vacuum if you know how to look. In that brightness, you finally understand the old seafarers who sailed beyond maps just to see what waited over the edge. Their journals spoke of monsters and wonders, yet most simply found more ocean. Maybe that's what you'll find on Mars. More questions, more dust, more reasons to keep going. You drift back toward your cabin, push the tablet on, and type a final note before rest. Day 150, still floating, still human, still curious. Then you close your eyes and the ship hums you toward the red horizon. You first notice it as a deepening hue at the edge of the window. Red, not like rust this time, but like the heartbeat of something waiting. For months, Mars has been nothing more than a star that refused to twinkle. Now it grows every day, swelling from ember to coin to globe, each shift measured, not in kilometers but in awe. You drift closer to the viewport, nose almost touching the cold glass, watching as that speck becomes a world. The ship creaks softly, its thermal plates adjusting, like a giant sighing in its sleep. No one talks much during this stage. There's reverence in the silence, the kind people say for cathedrals or funerals. The commander reads telemetry in a low voice, the numbers steady, reassuring. Your pulse isn't. The navigation screen glows with vectors and burn windows. Your trajectory curls like a question mark around the planet's orbit. You can almost feel gravity's fingers brushing the hull, teasing, promising to pull you home or somewhere new. Approach burns begin days in advance. Every few hours, the engines cough awake, shoving you into your harness. Acceleration feels strange after months of floating. Your organs remember weight in brief flashes. You imagine your bones whispering, "Oh, there you are." The crew jokes about rediscovering their own spines. Humor is brittle now, like ice under sunlighted, but it still keeps you warm. Through the window, the planet rotates slowly, its polar caps gleaming white as porcelain. Vast plains stretch in ochre and cinnamon shades, and deep canyons carve scars that could swallow Everest whole. You recall that Valles Marineris, the largest canyon system, runs more than 4,000 kilometers long. Historians still argue whether it was formed by tectonic rifts or ancient floods. Either way, it's a reminder that Mars has been busy reshaping itself while humanity just learned to crawl this far. Your tablet pings, mission control 20 minutes late as usual. The message is short. Mars approach nominal. Begin capture sequence in 36 hours. You're making history. You smile at that. History always sounds cleaner from a distance. In reality, it smells like burned propellant and anxious sweat. You send a quick reply. Nominal here too, coffee's terrible. Humor again, oxygen for the soul, night and day no longer mean anything, but the light changes anyway. Mars light fills the cabin with a reddish tint, painting every surface in soft sepia. The others look like old photographs, faces washed in copper. Someone puts on a playlist called Arrival Mood. It's half cinematic strings, half lo-fi beats. The contrast somehow works. You close your eyes and imagine the first people who ever saw this world through a telescope. Galileo, Huygens, Herschel, each squinting at the same crimson ghost and arguing over what it meant. Historians still debate whether early astronomers truly believed Mars was inhabited or simply hoped it was. You understand the hope part. Hope is contagious. Sleep that night is restless. You dream of orbiting cities, glass domes like pearls across the red plains. Children chase drones through artificial gravity parks. You wake with tears floating from your eyes, tiny globes catching the ship's light like drifting planets of their own. Maybe it's the recycled air, or maybe it's the awareness that you're about to set foot where no one ever has. Approach morning. If morning can exist without sunrise, arrives with the hiss of cooling valves and the commander's calm voice. All hands, final orbital burn in 20 minutes. You slide into your couch, straps biting comfortably across your shoulders. The hum of gyros builds, the ship rotating to face retrograde. You glance once more through the viewport. Mars fills it now, vast and terrifying, like standing nose to nose with a sleeping god. Engines fire. The noise isn't a roar, but a thunder locked behind glass. You feel the push deep in your stomach, pressure dragging you backward. Outside, the thrusters flare blue against the black, etching their light across the red curve below. The deceleration burn lasts nearly 20 minutes, long enough for fear to settle in, stretch its legs and make itself comfortable. Then silence returns. A faint ping. You're in orbit. Everyone exhales at once, laughter and relief tangled together. The commander announces, "Mars capture confirmed," though your ears barely register it. Your gaze is fixed on the planet rolling beneath you. Clouds of dust drift like smoke, revealing mountain ranges and impact basins older than Earth's first forests. The ship's computer highlights your future landing site in soft green, Elysium Planitia, the plane of heaven. You appreciate the poetry of that, even as you know it'll be more gravel than grace. You spend hours at the window. Down there, the air is only 1% as thick as Earth's, yet storms swirl large enough to swallow continents. Somewhere below, robotic ancestors sleep under layers of dust, opportunity, spirit, curiosity. Their solar panels buried, their wheels frozen mid-mission. You whisper a quiet thank you to them, the pioneers that failed so humans could try. Over dinner, if you can call it that, conversation meanders between technical checklists and personal fantasies. One crewmate wants to name their habitat New Pasadena. Another votes for Dust Bunny Base. Someone jokes about starting the first Martian coffee shop, Interplanetary Grounds. The laughter that follows sounds shaky but real. You think about how sailors on Earth once named their ships Endeavour and Discovery to hide fear behind optimism. Humans are nothing if not linguistically brave. Later, alone by the observation port, you study the Terminator line, the boundary between day and night sweeping across the planet. It moves with hypnotic grace, swallowing craters in shadow while revealing new landscapes bathed in faint dawn. You trace the edge with your fingertip on the glass. Somewhere beyond that darkness, future you will stand, boots crunching in dust that hasn't felt weight in billions of years. The thought steals your breath. You remember an odd fact. Before any probe ever touched down, scientists tried to simulate Martian soil using Hawaiian volcanic ash. The first Mars gardens were actually in a greenhouse on Mauna Kea, a quirky twist, practicing alien botany on one volcano to prepare for another. You picture those early researchers, hands dirty, dreaming of the moment you're living now. The chain of curiosity stretches backward through them like a lifeline. The next orbital maneuver comes fast, you're adjusting inclination for descent trajectory. The thrusters rumble again, and the planet outside tilts slightly, horizon sliding past in a dizzying sweep. A thin wisp of atmosphere glimmers, barely there, yet enough to burn any reckless entry to ash. That fragile veil separates life from oblivion. The engineering team back home designed a heat shield to handle it, an ablative shell that will char and flake away, protecting the capsule beneath. You've memorized every equation, but still math feels thin compared to faith. When the burn ends, the commander says, "We're locked for descent window." The words hang in the air like prophecy. There's no turning back now. You'll orbit for another day, checking systems, letting your nerves catch up. In that borrowed calm, you float by the window one last time. The sun slips behind Mars, and suddenly the whole planet becomes a black silhouette rimmed with fire. A corona of red-gold light spills into space, wrapping your ship in a halo. You've seen Earth eclipses before, but this feels personal, as if the universe paused to light a candle for your arrival. You record a quick log entry. Mars now, so close it feels alive. Surface features visible in detail. I can almost see the wind. You know wind is invisible, but imagination refuses to obey physics tonight. The ship's internal clock marks local sol time for the first time, a Martian day lasting 24 hours and 39 minutes. That extra 40 minutes feels luxurious, a gift of gravity and patience. You wonder how your body will sync to it, whether dreams will lengthen too. Scientists once argued that the human circadian rhythm actually drifts closer to 25 hours when isolated from sunlight. Perhaps Mars will feel weirdly natural after all, The rest of the crew heads to sleep, but you linger, watching faint lightning crackle within a dust storm at the horizon. The flashes remind you of Earth thunderstorms, the electric smell before rain, the way clouds roll like beasts. You can almost hear the thunder, though the vacuum denies you that comfort. You think about those who'll follow, whole generations born beneath this thin sky, who'll call Earth the old world as casually as you say back home. Historians still argue whether colonizing another planet is survival or arrogance. Maybe it's both, but right now, as Mars looms below and your heart races like an engine on standby, the debate feels distant. You aren't thinking of ethics or politics. You're thinking of breath, of boots, of the first step that will change what home means. A soft chime signals the ship entering nightside orbit. Below, darkness hides the red and replaces it with mystery. You whisper goodnight to the planet, half joking, half prayer. The words fog the glass before drifting away. You unclip from the window, push off toward your sleep bag and tether yourself inside. The hum of circulation fans fills your ears, steady and motherly. Outside, Mars turns beneath you, slow and sure. Tomorrow, or what passes for tomorrow, you'll dive toward it, wrapped in flame and math and courage. You close your eyes and imagine the descent, the heat shield glowing, parachutes unfolding, the thump of landing legs touching alien soil. In your mind, you already feel the dust rise around your boots, soft as a sigh. For now, you sleep suspended above your future home, half dreaming, half falling, listening to the heartbeat of two worlds pulsing in time. The wake-up tone is softer today, an electronic chime patterned after birdsong. It's the mission designer's idea of comfort, a small illusion of dawn in a place where dawn doesn't sing. You open your eyes to a cabin washed in faint red light, the planet huge and silent below. The day has come, descent day. The words taste impossible in your mouth. Checklist, suit integrity, comms test, vital sign steady. You move like a machine rehearsing its own legend. The others mirror you, each absorbed in their ritual. No one talks much, it feels disrespectful, as though conversation might jinx physics. The commander finally breaks the quiet with a low, "Let's go to work." You float toward the lander module, every motion deliberate. It's smaller than you remember, no bigger than a bus built by perfectionists. You strap in, the couch hugging your back. The hatch seals with a click so final it sounds like history slamming shut behind you. Separation jolts through the hull. For a heartbeat you are weightless again, then gravity begins to whisper back, thin but insistent. Mars is pulling. Through the viewport the mothership recedes, a silver speck fading against copper clouds. You feel an ache in your chest, like leaving port on an endless voyage. The commander's voice crackles. "Entry interface in 3 minutes. Strap tight." You obey. The air outside grows visible, a faint shimmer against darkness. Then comes the fire. The capsule shakes as friction claws at it, red and gold plasma blooming across the heat shield. It's a sunrise turned inward. You can't hear the flames, but you can feel them, a deep bass vibration that travels through metal and bone. Your teeth rattle, your heartbeat races to keep up. Somewhere behind the noise, you remember reading that the Apollo 16 command module hit similar heat loads re-entering Earth's atmosphere. That fact once seemed abstract, now it feels personal. Historians still argue whether Apollo's engineering courage has ever truly been matched. You silently thank them anyway. A voice counts down. Velocity 3.2 kilometers per second, altitude 50. Numbers cascade like prayer beads. You watch the G-meter climb, 3G, then 4, your vision tunnels, colour draining to grey. You whisper something halfway between a joke and a plea, "Next time install airbags." Then blessedly, drag slows you. The roar fades to a groan. Parachutes deploy with a bang that feels like the universe clapping once. The capsule lurches, jerks upright. You exhale a laugh that sounds half hysterical, half relieved. Outside, orange fabric blooms above you, canopies the size of small stadiums. They ripple against thin air, fighting for grip. Through the window, Mars rushes closer. The surface looks smoother than you expected, almost soft like powdered cinnamon. You know better. The commander calls out altitudes, 2 kilometers 1. The retro thrusters fire, little tongues of flame pushing downward. You smell scorched metal even through the filters. Impact. A dull thud, A small bounce, another thud, then stillness. No drum roll, no applause, just silence so heavy it feels like gravity itself holding its breath. For a moment, no one moves. You stare at the dust swirling outside, delicate as smoke. It drifts, settles, rises again. Slow motion choreography in 1/3 gravity. You realize you're alive. The first human heartbeat ever to echo here beats in your ears. Touchdown confirmed, the commander says finally, voice trembling just enough to prove he's human. You laugh, loud and unfiltered. The sound startles you. It's the only noise on an entire planet. The next step's a procedure. Pressure check. Systems nominal, seal integrity good, but your mind is already ahead of the checklist. It's at the door. When authorization comes, EVA-1 cleared, you're halfway out of your seat. You climb toward the airlock. Inside, the atmosphere pumps away with a sigh that feels almost disappointed to leave you. The outer hatch creaks open, revealing a wedge of color so unreal it could be a hallucination. Red dust, peach sky, a faint sun glowing smaller than you remember. The planet waits. Your boots pause at the edge. You take a slow breath because that's what every documentary ever taught you to do before stepping into history. The suit hums softly. The oxygen regulator whispers reassurance. You lower one foot, then the other, and the dust accepts you with a muted crunch. The first step feels heavier than gravity can explain. You half expect music, maybe a triumphant trumpet from nowhere, but all you get is wind, a weak sighing breeze that smells of nothing. You turn, wave at the camera perched on the lander, and your voice crackles across interplanetary space. Human presence on Mars confirmed feels weirdly normal. The delay means Earth won't hear you for 20 minutes, but you say it anyway. Some words exist just to fill the silence between worlds. You start to walk. Each stride is slow, bounding, more float than step. The ground crunches like dry snow. Dust clings to your boots, refusing to fall quickly. It moves in lazy arcs, as though time itself has gone soft. You laugh again, the sound strange in your own ears. The landscape stretches flat toward a horizon painted in faded orange. Rocks scatter like forgotten toys. In the distance, faint hills shimmer under thin sunlight. It's not beautiful in any conventional sense, too barren, too colourless, but it holds a kind of sacred honesty. There's no pretense here, no noise, no history. You're standing inside a blank page. You kneel, scoop a handful of soil, and let it trickle through your fingers. The grains float and settle slowly. They're lighter than sand, sharper too. You think of the Viking 1 lander in 1906. Its robotic arm doing exactly this, sampling soil for life and finding none. Historians still debate whether the chemical reactions it detected meant biology or merely strange chemistry. Either way, you're continuing that unfinished experiment, replacing metal with muscle. You plant the first sensor spike, its thin antenna rising like a toothpick monument. The instrument hums alive, whispering data to orbit. Radiation levels within expected range. Atmospheric pressure as predicted. Barely enough to move a feather. You grin. Predictability has never felt so thrilling. A quirky superstition among astronauts says you should bring something small from home to leave behind. You reach into your thigh pouch and pull out a tiny rubber dinosaur, the same mascot that floated through the ship months ago. You press it gently into the dust beside the lander leg. A plastic creature among ancient rocks, proof that humour travelled farther than fear. You wander a little farther from the capsule, careful to keep the tether in sight. The suit's servos whir quietly with each motion. A faint breeze lifts a streamer of dust around your ankles. For the first time, you notice your own shadow stretching long and thin across the plane. You raise a hand. It waves back, obedient but ghostly. The commander's voice interrupts. "How's the air?" You chuckle. Deliciously non-existent. "Copy that," he says. "Keep breathing anyway." As you scan the horizon, you see the sky gradually changing colour. Near the sun, it's peach and yellow. Overhead, it fades to grey. At sunset, your first Martian sunset, it will turn blue, the opposite of Earth's palette. You remember reading that Rayleigh's scattering works backward here because of fine dust particles. Nature loves to invert expectations. You take out the small flag patch from your suit pocket, not a national emblem, but a simple white cloth, printed with a blue swirl, the mission symbol for humanity as one species. You plant it near a rock. The gesture feels humble, almost prit, There's no audience, only dust that will outlive every footprint. After an hour, your oxygen timer reminds you to return. You turn back toward the lander, leaving a trail of prints that look impossibly fragile. Wind begins to blur the edges, but you don't mind. On Earth, footprints vanish in seconds. Here, they'll last centuries. The planet moves slowly, forgivingly. Inside the airlock, pressure builds again. You remove your helmet, and the first breath of recycled oxygen tastes like triumph and plastic. The commander meets your eyes. No words are needed. Everyone laughs, the kind of laughter that releases gravity from the soul. Later in the log entry, you try to describe what it felt like. Every adjective fails. Red, vast, silent. They're too small. You settle for, it felt like breathing for the first time, even though the air would kill me. Dinner that night, rehydrated pasta, still awful, tastes better than any meal in memory. You eat slowly, watching the dust outside swirl in the fading light. Through the small porthole, you can see your own footprints already half softened. You smile, erasure feels gentle here. Before sleep, you record a message for Earth. You talk about the colour of the dust, the smell of the suit, the sound of silence. You even mention the rubber dinosaur, because history deserves whimsy too. Then you sign off with, "Tomorrow we build." The lights dim to crimson twilight. You lie back in your bunk, muscles aching in strange new ways. The habitat hums around you, a small pocket of earthness breathing steadily in alien air. Outside, Mars rotates beneath the stars, unbothered, ancient, magnificent. Somewhere out there, invisible microbes might still cling to ice, waiting. Somewhere far above, your ship orbits like a guardian angel. You close your eyes and listen to the faint vibration of the planet through the floor. A heartbeat slower than your own. You smile, whispering the words that astronauts on Apollo once said after landing on the moon. We're home, in a way. And maybe you are. Not the home you left, but the one humanity's been dreaming toward for centuries. The morning after first contact with Martian dust begins like a hangover made of wonder. Every joint aches in slow protest, and your helmet ring leaves a faint indentation across your neck. But you don't mind. The first sunrise on Mars deserves pain. Outside the porthole, the horizon glows peach and violet, a watercolour bleeding upward until the small sun clears the edge of the plane. The light falls through the thin air at an angle that seems to lengthen everything. The shadows of the lander legs, the prints you left yesterday, even the silhouette of your own ambition. Breakfast is unremarkable. Oatmeal with reconstituted blueberries that taste like deflated optimism. The commander makes coffee by coaxing brown liquid from a pouch, muttering that no civilization can begin without caffeine. Someone laughs and calls it the first Martian brew. You think of the frontier settlers who started towns with less, just wood, grit, and unreasonable faith. Historians still argue whether Jamestown survived through planning or sheer accident. The same debate will probably apply to this camp someday. After the meal, you suit up again. The outer hatch opens, releasing you into a morning so still that the hiss of your life support system feels like symphony. Today's task: assemble the first living module, the bubble that will turn survival into residence. On the manifest, it is called an inflatable pressurized habitat, but everyone just says the bubble. The cargo pallets wait half buried in dust like unopened Christmas gifts. You and the others unseal them carefully, metal clamps clicking in slow rhythm. Each bundle unfolds from its casing like an enormous parachute made of silvery fabric. The material glints faintly. It's a polymer coated with aluminum and Kevlar, strong enough to laugh at micrometeoroids. NASA tested earlier versions of it in the Nevada desert decades ago, and a few prototypes still sit half-deflated there, visited by lizards and curious tourists. You remember reading that some engineers had filled test domes with air from leaf blowers and called it science by enthusiasm. The phrase feels right today. You begin clearing the ground. The regolith fights back. It's soft on top but crusted beneath like burnt sugar. Every scoop of your shovel floats lazily before settling again. A thin veil of dust coats your visor, tinting the world even redder. The commander's voice crackles through comms. Keep an eye on the wind. Forecast says minor gusts. Forecast, you smile at the absurdity of using weather reports on a planet with almost no weather. Laying the foundation isn't glamorous. You hammer in anchoring spikes that look like tent pegs designed by pessimists. Your muscles protest under the awkward half-gravity, always overshooting or undershooting each movement. You drop one tool, it falls with the grace of a lazy feather, landing several meters away. Nice catch, someone jokes. You reply, Mars took it orbit, finders keepers, humour again, the thin air's best supplement. When the anchors are in place, you begin unfolding the habitat. The material unrolls like a gleaming serpent, expanding across the red soil. You connect the inflation hose from the portable compressor and step back. The sound begins as a low hum, then deepens into a steady breath. The structure swells slowly, wrinkles smoothing out like time-lapse footage of a blooming flower. It's mesmerizing, Earth technology taking its first inhale on another world. As the dome reaches full height, you touch it cautiously. The outer surface feels warm where sunlight hits it, cold in the shadow, the temperature difference sharp even through your glove. A pressure gauge reads nominal. The commander grins inside his helmet, fogging the visor. "Congratulations," he says. "We just built the first suburban home on Mars." You take a step back to admire it. Against the endless red plain, the bubble looks absurdly delicate, a soap bubble waiting for a cosmic pin, yet it stands. You can almost imagine a porch light flickering on, a mailbox out front labelled occupant, humanity. While the habitat stabilises, you work on the connecting tunnel, a flexible airlock corridor linking it to the lander. It attaches with a metallic ring and clamps that snap into place with satisfying clicks. Every sound is muted here, filtered through helmets and comms, but even muted triumph still counts. Inside, you crawl through to inspect the interior. The walls glow faintly silver. The floor, a patchwork of inflated panels, feels springy underfoot. It smells like new plastic and ambition. You activate the internal systems, circulators, filters, thermal control. The hum begins, the same comforting pitch you learned to trust during the voyage. Oxygen flows from canisters, the air pressure climbs. Your display pings, breathable range achieved. Removing your helmet feels both reckless and sacred. You twist the seal, lift it slowly, and taste the air. It's dry, slightly metallic, recycled a dozen times through the filters, yet it's air, your air, held by your own handiwork. You grin until your cheeks ache. Outside, the others move like ants around the dome, setting up solar panels in neat rows. Their reflective surfaces catch the small sun, scattering shards of light across the plain. Power lines snake toward the habitat, black cords half buried in dust. The array looks fragile, but each panel carries decades of evolution, from the clunky silicon wafers of the 1970s to today's ultra-thin graphene layers. You recall that the International Space Station once relied on 8 arrays producing 120 kilowatts. Your entire colony will live on less than 1. Efficiency or austerity, it's a fine line. Historians still debate whether minimalism in space design stems from necessity or philosophy. By midday, if the word means anything here, the bubble stands fully functional. Inside, pressure holds steady, temperature, a cozy 15 degrees Celsius. You step out of your suit, stretch for the first time in days without mechanical resistance. Gravity feels lighter, the floor buoyant. You laugh, realizing you're literally bouncing with joy. Someone tosses a packet of rations across the room. It arcs gracefully, lands near your feet. "Lunch," they say. You tear it open, chewing in silence, letting the strangeness settle in. You're eating lunch on Mars. Inside a tent you inflated yourself. The absurdity almost cancels the fear. After the meal, you begin furnishing. Storage modules are folded into chairs, tables, and sleeping pods. Flat pack IKEA meets apocalypse chic. You attach Velcro strips along the walls, then press photos and mission patches into place. One crewmate sticks a tiny plush penguin above her bunk, claiming the title First Martian Roommate. Another tacks up a hand-drawn sign, Home Sweet Hemisphere. It's ridiculous and perfect. Outside, dust devils wander near the horizon, slender spirals that dissolve before reaching camp. You pause to watch one twist upward, sunlight scattering through it like amber smoke. On Earth, such storms might last minutes. Here, they can stretch for hours, sometimes days. The InSight lander once recorded one passing directly overhead, shaking its solar panels like a polite ghost. You remember that data report vividly. Wind speed 30 meters per second, visibility near zero. Historians still argue whether InSight's loss of power came from dust accumulation or unlucky weather. Either way, you promise to keep your panels cleaner. As evening approaches, the sun tilts low, shrinking into a pale dot above the red horizon. The temperature drops fast. You step outside in your suit, breath fogging the visor again. The bubble glows from within, a small lantern of human stubbornness. Against the darkening plane, it looks impossibly fragile yet undeniably alive. You run diagnostics one last time before heading in. Everything checks out. Oxygen stable, thermal regulators humming. You pause by the door, looking back toward the endless desert. The world feels both conquered and untouched, like an ancient riddle that just allowed one answer but hides 10 more. Inside, night duties are simple. Record logs, check vitals, make jokes. You scribble a note in your journal. Our home inflates, so do our egos. Beneath it, you draw a crude doodle of the dome sprouting like a mushroom under alien stars. The commander announces that tomorrow's goal is to expand the second habitat, one for lab equipment and crop growth. You picture rows of leafy greens basking under LED light, a pocket of spring in this eternal autumn. It's strange how quickly survival turns into planning. The first day you were terrified of breathing, the second you're rearranging furniture. Humanity always redecorating the unknown. Before sleep, you take one last walk through the airlock tunnel. The hum of pumps is rhythmic, almost meditative. The thin plastic walls creak gently with temperature shifts. You stop halfway, hand pressed against the transparent section that shows the stars above. Through the distortion, you can just make out the faint blue glimmer of Earth. It looks like a single thought that never quite leaves your mind. You whisper, "We made a house." The words fog the inside of your visor, vanish instantly, but the sentiment lingers. Back in your bunk, the insulation muffles all sound except your own breathing and the heartbeat of the machines. You let the sensation of weight, or the lack of it, sink in. Somewhere outside, a gust brushes against the dome, testing its resolve. It holds. You smile, drifting towards sleep, comforted by the knowledge that the universe tried to blow your house down and failed. Tomorrow will bring new worries, microfractures, dust infiltration, supply rations. But for now, you lie in a bubble of warmth and light, suspended between two planets of memory, the one you left and the one you're learning to belong to. Mars hums softly beneath you and you hum back. It feels like the start of a lullaby shared between worlds. Morning smells faintly of plastic and promise. The bubble holds steady, walls taut and silver, the hum of its air circulators so constant it's become your heartbeat. You wake to the faint sound of packets rustling, someone rummaging for breakfast, and the hiss of the pressure door cycling as another crewmate steps outside. The novelty of being on Mars is already softening into routine. You stretch, yawn, and feel the ache of muscles that haven't yet made peace with 1/3 gravity. Today's assignment, make the planet feed you. The galley table, if it can be called that, is a fold-out shelf with Velcro pads to keep your utensils from floating when the fans switch modes. You tear open a pouch labelled scrambled eggs, approximate. The taste is less chicken-adjacent and more memory of breakfast. You sigh and mutter, "We need real food." Someone replies through a mouthful of oatmeal, "Grow it then, farmer." You glance at the corner of the dome where sealed crates wait. The hydroponic kits, your next small miracle. Outside, the light is dim and kind. You step through the airlock with a crate tethered to your suit. Dust swirls lazily, stirred by your boots, painting the scene in shifting copper. The lab dome, still half inflated from yesterday, squats beside the habitat like a younger sibling. Its transparent panels gleam, already dusted in red. You attach a new power conduit and cycle the airlock. Inside, the temperature climbs, humidity rising. For the first time since launch, you smell moisture. Sterile, filtered, but beautiful. You unpack the hydroponic trays one by one. They unfold like origami, black plastic channels with tiny pockets for nutrient gel. The grow lights flicker to life, bathing the interior in soft magenta. You grin. Every sci-fi movie got the colour right. The commander peers in and says, "Looks like a nightclub for lettuce." You reply, "Cover charge, 1 breath per minute." The nutrient mix has been carefully balanced. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, a dash of human stubbornness. You inject it into the gel, watching as clear bubbles race along the channels. The water came from melted ice excavated yesterday. Run through filters until it smelled of nothing. That alone feels like wizardry, conjuring liquid from stone. You recall reading that in 2015, scientists grew lettuce aboard the International Space Station using a nearly identical system. The astronauts reportedly celebrated by eating the leaves with balsamic vinegar in zero gravity. Historians still argue whether that small salad marked the true beginning of extraterrestrial agriculture or merely a clever publicity stunt. Either way, you're grateful for their homework. You open a vacuum-sealed envelope labelled Solanum tuberosum, Sol A, the official term for potatoes genetically tweaked to thrive in low pressure. You remember watching that old movie where an astronaut farmed potatoes in Martian soil, fertilised with human waste, equal parts inspiring and disgusting. The real prototypes, though, came from a Peruvian research centre that tested crops in volcanic sand. A quirky article once noted they played Peruvian flute music to the plants for morale. You decide to hum instead. Same sentiment, fewer pan flutes. The first tubers settle into their gel beds, small, pale, unassuming. You cover them gently and switch on the humidity control. The machine sighs. For the first time, there's a new sound in the dome, dripping. Condensation beads on the inner walls, tiny droplets sliding down like tears. You touch the surface, it's cold, smooth, alive. Mars reluctantly is beginning to sweat for you. Hours pass in a kind of meditative trance. You adjust light angles, log data, check pH. Outside the transparent wall, dust devils march across the plain like ghosts conducting a parade. Occasionally one brushes the dome, rattling it just enough to remind you who owns the neighbourhood. You whisper, "Stay gentle." Lunch back in the main habitat is a social affair by necessity. The commander insists on everyone eating together. "It keeps us human," he says. You tell stories while chewing dehydrated stew. Someone mentions an old superstition. Sailors at sea would toast their meals to the ship's cook for luck. You raise your pouch and declare, "To the lettuce." Everyone laughs. You realise laughter has become the new oxygen, thin but vital. After lunch, you return to the grow dome to check on condensation levels. The sensors show humidity climbing fast. You adjust the vents, and for a fleeting moment, you catch a whiff of something green. The faint, sharp scent of chlorophyll from the first sprouting samples. You close your eyes and imagine grass underfoot, summer air heavy with pollen, rain tapping on leaves. The memory feels distant, like a dream half remembered. You let it wash over you anyway. In the evening, the commander calls for a systems meeting. The solar array output has dipped slightly, probably from dust buildup. You volunteer to clean them tomorrow before dawn. Someone jokes that you'll be the first person to wash dishes on 2 planets. You smile and noted it in your log. Domesticity survives distance. As night settles, you dim the grow lights to mimic dusk. The magenta glow softens to blue. Inside the trays, droplets cling to the seedlings, trembling as the air filters sigh. You run your fingers lightly along the wall. The vibration is steady, a pulse of air and life. The dome hums like a sleeping creature. Before heading back to the habitat, you pause outside to watch the sunset. As the sun dips, the sky shifts from orange to a surreal turquoise. The thin atmosphere scatters light backward, reversing Earth's palette. It's strangely comforting, proof that difference can still be beautiful. You record a short video for Earth, narrating the colour change. "Sunset Sol 12, you say softly, and for once blue means goodbye." Back inside, the temperature has dropped. You hang your suit on the rack, brush red dust from the fabric. It's everywhere. Grit in the folds, static clung to your hair. You once read that Apollo astronauts compared lunar dust to gunpowder. Martian dust smells sharper, metallic like hot wires and old coins. A fringe rumour suggests long exposure could be toxic due to perchlorates. You try not to think about it, but you make a mental note. Find better filters before lungs decide to mutiny. Dinner tastes marginally better tonight. Rehydrated chickpeas with a splash of synthetic olive oil. You add a crumb of humour. Someday our descendants will eat actual hummus and call us legends. The commander raises an eyebrow. Only if we live long enough to grow the chickpeas. Fair point. You record another log before bed. Day 12 on Mars. The first plants have begun photosynthesis. The sensors show a minor oxygen rise inside the lab. It smells faintly like hope, or maybe humidity. You switch off the recorder and sit for a moment in the dim light, eyes unfocused. You think of the first farmers on Earth, Mesopotamia's floodplains, Nile's silt, patience carved into routine. Humanity has always been in conversation with soil. You're just continuing the sentence on a different page. Sleep doesn't come quickly. Your mind hums with data and images, the slow curl of sprouts, the shimmer of condensation, the faint creak of the dome settling in the cold. You imagine centuries from now, schoolchildren on Earth learning about this day the way you once learned about the first wheel or fire. Historians will still argue whether it began here, in this humble hydroponic tent, or years earlier, in some lab. You hope they argue forever. Debate means the story lives. You finally drift off, lulled by the hum of fans and the soft rhythm of your breathing sync to the machines. In the liminal haze before sleep, you picture the seedlings growing quietly under magenta light, stretching toward a sun they cannot see. Hours later, you wake to the faint chime of the environmental alarm, humidity too low. You pull on your suit, stumble back into the grow dome. A leak has opened at one seam, a hairline crack sighing precious moisture into the Martian night. You patch it quickly, press your hand to the seal until the sensors calm. The air steadies. The seedlings shiver but endure. You exhale, long and slow, the kind of breath people take after surviving small disasters. When you return to your bunk, dawn is already seeping across the horizon, pale and dusty. You crawl under the thermal sheet, whisper, "Good job, lettuce," and smile into the dark. For the first time, you feel not like a visitor or a survivor, but a caretaker. Mars, unwilling host though it may be, is starting to offer something back. You fall asleep knowing that in one tiny dome, under alien skies, life is growing, green, fragile, and impossibly stubborn. The air inside the habitat tastes faintly of minerals this morning, a reminder of what you were doing before you fell asleep, running the water recycler until its filters hummed like a choir of bees. You wake to the thin hum still resonating through the walls. The sound of civilization reduced to plumbing. Outside, the first light spills across the plain, illuminating frost that formed overnight. It glitters like powdered glass, tracing the edges of rocks and footprints. You stare for a long moment, realizing you're watching Mars breathe out. The commander's voice crackles over comms. "Hydro survey, Sector 7 today, bring the drill." You nod even though he can't see it. Today you're hunting ghosts, water ghosts, the kind that hide under dust and stone, and the satellite scans from orbit suggest subsurface ice pockets within a few kilometers. If confirmed, they could supply the colony for months, maybe years. You stretch, pulling on the pressure suit, and mutter, "Treasure hunt, but wetter." Outside, the day feels still enough to shatter. The light is too sharp, the shadows too clean. Each step kicks up lazy curls of dust that drift long after you've moved on. The rover waits like a patient dog, solar panels unfolded and dusted from yesterday's storm. You climb in, pressurize, and flick on the power. The hum is comforting, familiar. The screen displays coordinates, a small blinking dot marking your destination. Ancient riverbeds that once carved the plain like veins. Historians still argue whether those rivers ever truly flowed, or if they were merely avalanches of dust sculpted by the wind. Either way, you're here to ask the planet directly. The rover lurches forward, wheels gripping uncertainly, then finding rhythm. The suspension groans as you crest low dunes, the horizon unrolling in slow motion. You pass a field of scattered rocks, rounded and smooth, evidence of erosion long vanished. You imagine water pouring across this land billions of years ago, carving channels, pooling in shallow basins. The idea makes your throat dry. After 20 minutes, the terrain dips into a shallow canyon. The walls show layers, red, brown, faint grey streaks that shimmer under sunlight. You stop, step out, and crouch near a small outcrop. The rock is fine-grained, almost clay-like, soft enough to flake under your glove. Perfect. You unpack the portable drill, its bit glinting silver against the rust-coloured stone. The first bite of metal into rock sends a shiver up your arm, a vibration that sounds almost like whispering through your helmet. As you drill deeper, the tone changes, higher, sharper, until the sensor pings. Moisture detected. You blink, lean closer. The gauge shows a humidity spike, faint but real. You laugh, a short burst of disbelief. "Found you," you whisper. The commander responds immediately, voice tight with excitement. "Copy that, sample and seal." You extract a small vial of fine dust. It clumps slightly, darker than the surface layer. That faint cohesion is everything, the fingerprint of ice hiding below. You lift it to the light, mesmerized. Billions of years ago, this dust might have felt rain. The idea makes your heart ache with impossible nostalgia. You load the sample into the rover's analysis bay. The spectrometer hums, colours flickering on its display, peaks rise on the graph, oxygen, hydrogen, bound molecules, water ancient and reluctant. The commander whoops through the comms, his excitement echoing across the channel. You grin and say, "We can drink history." On the drive back, the radio plays faint classical music, something from a shared playlist back on the ship. Strings swell, notes drifting through static. It feels cinematic, and you say aloud, "If this were a movie, the audience would think we're about to die heroically." No one answers, but laughter crackles faintly across the line. Back at camp, the sample is transferred to the small lab module. You and the science officer run it through thermal extraction. Heat, condense, collect. The first droplet appears on the condenser plate, clear as glass. Everyone stares. It's absurdly tiny, maybe half a milliliter, but it glows in the magenta grow lights like a pearl. You feel like a magician who's just conjured gold from sand. The commander makes a small toast, lifting his water pouch. To the ghosts beneath our feet. You echo it quietly. The droplet slides into a collection tube with a satisfying plink. Later, when the data is transmitted to Earth, the message will read, "First confirmed on-site extraction of Martian subsurface ice. Sol 18, short clinical missing the poetry, but you'll remember the way it looked, liquid, shimmering, fragile as a heartbeat." After the excitement fades, fatigue creeps in. You step outside to clear your head. The horizon burns copper under a small sun, and the temperature's already dropping. You crouch near a rock and watch frost begin to form again, slow as thought. The water here is always escaping, evaporating into thin air, vanishing into nothing. You can't blame it. If freedom were possible, you'd evaporate too. You touch your gloved hand to the surface, feel the chill even through insulation. The frost melts slightly, leaving a darker stain on the rock before disappearing again. You wonder how many billions of times this cycle has played out. Freeze, melt, vanish, like a planet breathing in its sleep. Back inside, you check the sensors. The humidity in the grow dome has risen slightly since you brought the sample in. Coincidence or consequence? Hard to tell. Still, the plants look happier, leaves unfolding like lazy flags. You lean close and whisper, "He brought you a drink." Evening falls. The commander assigns you to monitor the external thermal units overnight. That means another walk outside under the dim stars. You don the suit, step through the airlock, and feel the cold hit instantly. So sharp it seems to ring in your ears, the sky above is mercilessly clear. Phobos streaks past, a potato-shaped blur racing across the heavens, followed by slow, shy Deimos. They look close enough to grab. You raise your hand, trace their path. The ancients once named them fear and panic, fitting for moons orbiting a world like this. You trudge toward the array. The lights from the habitat cast long blue shadows across the dust, making the ground look like rippling waves frozen mid-motion. You realize you're walking across what used to be a sea. Billions of years ago, the northern hemisphere may have held an ocean larger than the Arctic. Historians still argue whether it ever truly existed, or if the evidence is just a cruel mirage. Either way, tonight you choose to believe. It makes each step feel like walking across memory. When you reach the thermal vents, you crouch and check the readings. Steady. The machinery hums softly, venting warmth into the cold. You sit beside it for a moment, grateful for the heat, and look back at the habitat glowing faintly in the distance. For the first time since arrival, it feels small, one fragile bubble surrounded by endless silence. You remember something a fringe philosopher once wrote. Perhaps the universe is a desert, and life is the sound of water leaking through. You smile. The thought fits too well. You stay until your suit's temperature warning nudges you homeward. As you walk back, frost begins forming on the suit's knees, tiny filigrees catching starlight. When you finally reach the airlock, the frost sublimates instantly as warm air envelops you. A miniature thaw, personal and comforting. Inside, everyone's asleep. You move quietly through the habitat, the floor panels creaking slightly under your boots. The grow dome hums behind its transparent wall, magenta glow painting, soft halos on your face. You tap the monitor, oxygen levels rising, humidity holding. Good. You stand there for a while, watching the droplets slide down the inner walls like rain pretending to exist. You pour a small measure of the extracted water into a sample glass and hold it up to the light. It refracts into pale blue shards, scattering faint rainbows on your fingers. You sip it, slow and reverent. It tastes of nothing and everything. In your journal that night you write, Sol 18, we found water. It hides, but it listens. Every molecule a memory of oceans that once were. Every droplet a whisper, I'm still here. The hum of the recycler lulls you as you lie back. You can still feel the cold of the frost on your gloves, the vibration of the drill, the shimmer of that first droplet. Outside, the planet exhales more frost into the dawn. Inside, you dream of rivers running again, slow, steady, patient enough to outlive doubt. The first thing you notice is the silence of cold. Not just absence of sound, but the muffled hum of atoms slowing down. The planet itself taking shallow breaths. When the temperature plunges to 100 degrees, even the dust seems to hesitate mid-air. You wake inside the bubble to the faint crackle of frost forming on the outer film, a soft crystal itch that creeps across the walls. The sensors blink blue warnings, external temperature critical, thermal draw increasing. You rub your hands together, more habit than need, and mutter, "Welcome to the deep freeze." Mars at night is less a landscape and more a memory of heat. The day's warmth, if it can be called that, evaporates into blackness. You pull on the thicker undersuit, the one lined with carbon fibre filaments that pulse faint warmth along your spine. The commander jokes that the design was inspired by electric blankets and penguins. You believe it. The suit buzzes softly like a contented bird. Still, when you press your glove to the inner wall, the cold seeps through in seconds, a ghost of ancient ice tapping your bones. Breakfast is reluctant, powdered cocoa and nutrient paste, heated until it pretends to be comfort. You sip, feeling the warmth slide down your throat, an illusion of home. Outside, the pressure gauge shows the wind picking up. Thin air shouldn't move this loudly, but the gusts here carry grit in, and grit has opinions. You remember reading that in 1971, Mariner 9 entered orbit during a planet-wide storm so thick it blotted out every landmark, and historians still argue whether that storm was the worst on record, or simply the first we happen to notice. Either way, it taught engineers humility. You suit up for the morning inspection. The airlock cycles slowly. The transition always feels like stepping through seasons in reverse. Spring warmth to polar midnight in 3 seconds. Outside, the world glows faintly blue under dawn. Your visor fogs despite the defog system. Condensation freezes instantly into spider web patterns. Beautiful, inconvenient art. The solar panels are crusted with frost. You kneel, brush them gently with a microfiber pad. Each stroke leaves streaks of clarity that catch the sun's first rays. The light is pale, but it hits your helmet like needles. The paradox of Mars, sunlight without warmth. Engineers back home still quarrel over the best suit insulation. One group favours multi-layer aerogel, another insists on adaptive nanothermals that mimic reptile skin. You think both sides underestimate sheer stubbornness. Your fingers tingle as you tighten bolts on the array. The gloves are heated, but only just. The commander's voice comes through the comm. "Keep an eye on your digits, frostbite's not in the budget." You chuckle, exhaling tiny clouds inside the helmet. You finish the inspection and glance toward the horizon. The sky there is brighter, almost peach. Promising a fragile day, you climb into the rover and drive toward the thermal vents to check coolant lines. The terrain crackles under the tyres, frozen dust crunching like brittle sugar. The suit's internal gauge reads 87 degrees. The lowest temperature recorded on Earth, in Antarctica, was 89.2 degrees C back in '83 at Vostok Station. You murmur the fact aloud as if reciting trivia could keep frostbite at bay. "We're officially colder than history," you say. At the vent site, the pipes emit thin plumes of vapour that crystallise before drifting away. You check pressure, steady, and sit for a moment to warm your hands near the outlet. The heat seeps through the glove, tender and fleeting. You imagine the first Antarctic explorers crouched around camp stoves, faces rimed with ice, laughing just to prove they still could. Historians still argue whether those expeditions advanced science or insanity more. The line feels thin tonight. On the drive back, the sun rises higher, and the frost on the windshield sublimates in slow motion, curling away like cigarette smoke. You whisper thanks to the indifferent sun. The thin light glints off the domes. Your small artificial summer in an infinite winter. Inside the habitat, the airlock's warmth hits you like an embrace. The commander greets you with a mug of heated electrolyte drink. To survival, he says. You clink pouches, mock solemn. Steam fogs the room for a heartbeat before the dehumidifier sighs it away. The rest of the morning is spent patching insulation seams. The outer dome has developed a faint hiss, temperature stress warping joints. You apply sealant while the science officer monitors from inside, her face framed in the window, mouth forming exaggerated directions you can't hear through the helmet. You wave dramatically, pretending misunderstanding. She rolls her eyes. Human warmth radiates even through polycarbonate. By midday, the internal temperature stabilizes again at 15 degrees. You peel off your suit, grateful for the sensation of air touching skin. The floor heater hums beneath your boots. Someone plays music, an old blues track that sounds slightly warped through the comm speakers. It's strange how the cold outside amplifies any hint of warmth inside. The dome smells faintly of coffee and polymer. You think, absurdly, that it's cozy. Afternoon brings fatigue. The body works harder and cold, burning calories faster than ration plans appreciate. You sip nutrient broth and watch frost melt slowly on the window seam. Beyond the glass, the landscape is perfectly still, save for a distant swirl of dust chasing its tail. You realise you haven't heard the wind in hours. The insulation is that good. Silence, again reclaiming its throne. Later, as the light fades, you prepare for the long night eagle. The habitat's AI, nicknamed Blanket, adjusts power distribution automatically, diverting extra energy to heaters. A faint vibration travels through the floor as generators hum to life. You help the commander check backup batteries. Redundancy keeps us breathing, sis. These stairs seem romantic about, you reply. The temperature outside drops fast, 95 degrees C, then 98. By the time the external feed reads triple digits below zero, the bubble creaks like an old ship in ice. You listen to it, half anxious, half mesmerized. The sound is deep, resonant, like whales singing under frozen seas. You pull your thermal blanket tighter and imagine the dome itself humming lullabies. During night watch, you patrol the modules with a handheld sensor. The readings glow green, stable. You pause at the grow dome. Inside, the plants sleep under dim blue light, condensation tracing lazy rivulets down the panels. Despite the cold outside, the air here is tropical. You press your palm to the glass and feel warmth radiating back, a fragile defiance. On impulse, you whisper, "Keep growing." The leaves don't answer, but a droplet slides down and lands with a soft plink. It's enough. Hours crawl by. The heater cycles on and off in steady rhythm. You make tea from recycled water, sip it slowly. It tastes faintly metallic, the flavour of machinery trying to imitate rivers. You think of the first night you spent camping as a kid, how you listened to crickets and thought silence was peace. Now you know silence can bite. You jot a line in your journal. Sol 23, cold so pure it hums. The planet tests our edges, but hasn't found the centre yet. Outside, the stars burn sharper than any seen through atmosphere. Constellations look skewed, familiar and alien at once. You search for Orion, find only half his belt. The rest hides beyond the curve of the dome. You whisper, "Missed a few stars, old friend," and laugh quietly at yourself. At 0300 hours, the low temperature alarm chirps again, false as usual, but protocol demands checking. You slip back into the suit and step outside. The air is glass. The ground crunches under your boots. Each exhale forms a halo of ice crystals before vanishing. The horizon glows faintly where Phobos rises, quick and small. You walk the perimeter, scanning seams. Everything holds. For a moment you switch off the helmet lamp. Darkness folds around you, thick and blue. Above, the Milky Way stretches like frost on black glass. You stand still, letting the quiet burrow into you. In that vast stillness, you swear you hear something, not wind, not machinery. The faint crack of ice shifting beneath the crust, the planet turning in its sleep. You whisper, "Years, good night, neighbour." When you return, the airlock seals behind you with a hiss that feels like applause. You shed the helmet, rub warmth back into your face and collapse into the bunk. The sheets radiate mild heat from embedded coils. You close your eyes and listen to the dome creak, to heaters exhale, to your heartbeat syncing with mechanical hums. Before sleep fully claims you, one last thought drifts through. Cold isn't the enemy here. It's conversation, the planet's way of asking, how badly do you want to stay? You smile, half dreaming already, and answer without words, badly enough to build summer from circuits. It begins with a whisper, not the howling cinematic gale you expected, but a slow hiss that slides across the dome like a finger tracing glass. You wake to that sound and the dim red flicker of the external sensors cycling to alert mode. The monitors glow amber. Wind velocity rising, visibility dropping, storm probability 92%. You rub your eyes, still half dreaming, and mutter, "Of course, weather waits for Mondays, even on Mars." The commander's voice breaks over the intercom, calm and clipped. "Suit up. Everyone, secure external assets before visibility falls below 30 meters. You pull on the pressure suit, still warm from the night heater. The zipper rasp feels almost human amid all the electronic noise. You step into the airlock, cycle through pressure equalization, and the outer door slides open to a world already shifting colors. The horizon has vanished. The air, if you can call it that, boils with dust. Millions of rust-colored grains suspended in the thin atmosphere. Sunlight fractures through it, painting the ground in crimson haze. The wind speed reads 60 kilometers per hour, but on Mars that feels like being brushed by static. The air is too thin to push hard. Still, the grains carry momentum, each one a microscopic blade. They sting the suit like sandpaper kisses. You move quickly toward the solar array. Each panel gleams faintly beneath an encroaching veil of dust. You brush one with a soft cloth, an act of futility performed out of faith. The commander's voice crackles again. "Prioritize anchors. We'll ride this one out." You kneel, tighten a clamp, feel the gust tug at your shoulder. For a moment, it almost feels alive, curious. Historians still argue whether the great 2018 storm that ended Opportunity's mission was predictable, or simply a reminder that Mars decides the schedule. You remember watching that newsfeed on Earth. My battery is low and it's getting dark. It had felt poetic then. Standing here with grit tapping your visor like impatient fingers, it just feels personal. By midday, the light dims to a copper twilight. The sun becomes a pale disk, barely visible through the swirling red. Inside the dome, the grow lights flicker as the solar output drops. The habitat shifts to low power mode automatically. The hum of systems softens to a heartbeat rhythm. You glance at the power graph, levels dropping faster than expected. Blanket, you call to the habitat AI, recalculate autonomy. Its synthesized whisper answers. Projected reserve, 83 hours. 83 hours of storm, isolation, and rationed power. You sigh, muttering, "Could have been worse," because optimism is cheaper than batteries. You help the crew secure the rover, tethering it to metal stakes like a restless animal. The wind strengthens, lifting spirals of hammers of dust that stretch into the sky. You remember the Viking images, towering plumes hundreds of kilometers tall. Those storms circled entire hemispheres, their reach almost planetary. Scientists once theorized they're triggered by sunlight heating darker patches of ground, setting off feedback loops of rising air and dust lift. Others say they're the planet's heartbeat. Tonight, it feels like that heartbeat is speeding up. Inside again, you cycle through the airlock, the hiss of repressurization sounding strangely intimate after the chaos outside. Dust clings to the suit joints, the static discharge crackles when you remove your helmet. You cough lightly even though the air is filtered, psychosomatic memory of grit in lungs. The commander wipes a glove across his visor, leaving red streaks. "Visibility's down to 15 meters, he says. "We stay put." So you wait. Storm time moves differently. Hours dissolve into the steady percussion of dust on polymer. The light outside fades to an eerie twilight that never quite becomes night. You sit near the window and watch particles race horizontally. Endless red rain. The sensors show temperature dropping as sunlight disappears. Heaters compensate, drawing precious power. The commander monitors readings. You monitor boredom. Someone jokes about playing cards, but even laughter feels heavy in the filtered air. To break monotony, you record a video log. The camera flickers as dust static interferes, creating vertical streaks like old film scratches. You speak softly. "Sol 29. The storm's here. Everything vibrates like an old washing machine. We're learning the Martian lullaby: hiss, hum, hope. You pause, listening to the wind drum the dome. Historians still argue whether silence or noise drives people mad first. I'll report back. Sleep is impossible. The dome flexes subtly with pressure shifts, a rhythmic pulse you feel through the floor. Every creak sounds like a question. Will it hold? You remember reading that the early Antarctic stations recorded identical patterns: metal contracting, wind howling, humans inventing ghosts to explain the noises. You half expect to hear footsteps outside, some dust-made creature pacing the perimeter. Instead, only the storm answers. At hour 40, power conservation protocols cut non-essential systems. The interior light dims to a soft amber, giving everything the hue of candlelit ruins. The temperature drops a few degrees, your breath fogs faintly in front of you. You wrap the thermal blanket tighter and watch dust cascade down the window like snow. Pretty, someone murmurs. You nod. Beauty survives even in red monochrome. Then the storm's second act begins, the oscillation phase. The wind shifts direction every few minutes, creating pressure differentials that make the dome groan like a cello string. You check the external cameras, but the feed is pure static. The AI whispers updates. Integrity, nominal. Structural stress, with intolerance. You trust it mostly. To distract yourself, you tell stories. Around the dim light, the crew gathers like campers at a ghost-free bonfire. You talk about Earth storms, hurricanes, monsoons, the smell of rain on pavement. The commander recalls surviving a sandstorm in the Mojave during training, when visibility dropped to 0 and they navigated by rope line. You laugh at the irony of practicing deserts to survive another desert. Someone asks, "What do you miss most about Earth?" You think for a moment. Sound, you answer. Real sound. Crickets, waves, wind that isn't trying to kill you. Everyone hums agreement. For a moment, the storm outside softens, as if eavesdropping. By hour 60, the power reserves dip below 40%. You reroute the greenhouse lights to half intensity. The plants wilt slightly, as though sharing your fatigue. You whisper apologies to the lettuce. The commander shrugs. They'll bounce back, they always do. You hope he's right. Resilience feels contagious. At hour 70, fatigue finally wins. You curl up in the bunk, helmet resting beside you. The noise outside blurs into white hiss, almost soothing now. You imagine it's the ocean, waves breaking endlessly. Funny how chaos can lull when it becomes constant. You drift between sleep and awareness, dreaming of standing on a beach back home, sand between your toes instead of dust between your teeth. You wake to silence, not gradual quiet, sudden, absolute. The absence of sound is so sharp it feels like pressure on your ears. You sit up, heart hammering. The commander's voice cuts through the intercom. "Storm's passing." You scramble to the viewport. The world beyond is unrecognizable. The sky glows faint pink, dust still hanging like fog. The sun, weak but visible, struggles through the haze. You can finally see shadows again, elongated, uncertain. The ground is coated in a fine red blanket, dunes reshaped overnight. The solar panels are buried. You and the crew suit up, step outside into the aftermath. The air feels thicker, though readings show otherwise. Each movement sends plumes of dust swirling lazily upward. You dig carefully, brushing off panels one by one. The sun's reflection returns in fractured flashes. It's hard work in low gravity. Every scoop of dust wants to float back into your face. "Mars glitter," you mutter, bitting inside the helmet filter. A thin breeze rises, sweeping across the plain, redistributing the chaos. You stand still, listening. The planet exhales. Somewhere beneath the surface, frozen pockets of gas shift, releasing faint puffs that sound almost like sighs. You tilt your head and whisper, "Good waltz." By the time all panels are cleared, power begins to climb. The habitat hums louder, systems reviving like waking animals. Inside, the air warms quickly, and the grow lights flare to life. The plants stand limp but alive, droplets forming again on leaves. You press your hand against the glass, warmth returning, pulse resuming. Later, as you log the event, You try to describe the sound of the storm, the way it wrapped the world in moving silence, the rhythm it forced upon your heartbeats. You write, Soul 32, the storm taught us choreography. We bend, we creak, we sway, but we do not break. Mars leads, we follow. Before sleep you replay a recording from the external microphone. The wind's hiss, layered with the metallic creaks, sounds almost like music. You imagine turning it into a lullaby someday. The dust storm waltz, the melody of survival. Outside, the last of the dust settles, and the stars return sharp and cold. The dome glows faintly under their light, a bubble of warmth in an ocean of red frost. You whisper goodnight to the planet that tried, briefly to erase you, and smile. After the storm, the quiet feels unnatural, like the world forgot to exhale. The dust has settled, but it lingers in the air, tiny red motes spinning lazily in shafts of sunlight that leak through the dome's seams. You watch them drift and think, this is what loneliness looks like when it becomes visible. The commander's voice echoes from another module, muffled by fabric and fatigue. Routine systems check at 0700. The words sound automatic, a sentence learned rather than spoken. Everyone's tired. The adrenaline of surviving the storm has crashed into a wall of silence. You move through the habitat like a ghost, checking gauges that don't need checking, just to hear the soft beeps reply. Sleep has been thin. You wake often, heart racing for no reason, ears straining for wind that isn't there. The psychologist on Earth calls it post-stimulus hypervigilance. You call it the echo of weather. Mars has rhythms that sneak into your blood. Breakfast tastes like cardboard dusted with nostalgia. No one talks much. Someone plays a recording of ocean waves, an old file from a training playlist. The sound fills the dome, too gentle, too wet. You close your eyes and imagine the crash of surf, salt stinging your lips, gulls screaming. When you open them again, the red still owns everything. You've begun to notice small things, the way the commander's jokes land slower, the silence that follows them, the faint tremor in your own hands when you hold a pen, the way everyone avoids looking at the clock. Isolation has weight and it presses evenly on all of you. Historians still argue whether early polar explorers or submarine crews better predicted what deep space confinement does to the human mind. You suspect neither quite imagined this. Silence without darkness, company without closeness. You start a new ritual. Morning walks inside the airlock tunnel. 15 meters back and forth, counting steps like rosary beads. It helps somehow. The confined corridor feels safer than the wide-open plain outside. Out there, infinity yawns. In here, boundaries hold. During one walk, you pause halfway and watch sunlight filter through the small viewport. Dust glints like gold powder. You press your gloved palm against the transparent wall and whisper, "Still here." The gesture becomes habit. Every day, same spots, same words. A private liturgy. Inside the habitat, conversations drift toward Earth memories. Someone misses the smell of wet soil, another the chaos of traffic. You confess you miss grocery stores, fluorescent lights, abundance, the luxury of choice. The commander laughs softly. Imagine the first Martian mall, he says. Empty shelves, everything red. You grin but feel a twist of ache in your chest. The psychologist's pre-recorded messages arrive every few days, time-delayed empathy. Her voice is calm, textbook soothing. Remember to externalize emotional responses, speak feelings aloud. The environment absorbs silence but doesn't return it. You mutter, even therapy lags by 20 minutes. Still you follow the advice, talking to the plants while you prune them. The lettuce listens politely, leaves shimmer under magenta light as you whisper about dreams and memories. Sometimes you swear they lean toward you. One evening you catch yourself saying goodnight to them out loud. You don't stop. To fight monotony, you reorganize the lab. Label everything. Relabel it when the first order feels wrong. You find satisfaction in precision. Hydration line A, nutrient channel B. The tidy rows of data and ducts make sense when nothing else does. Humans, you think, build order like ants build tunnels, instinctively, desperately. After lunch, you run treadmill exercises while watching Earthrise on the CIR monitor feed. The planet looks so small now. Just another star that spins slowly in your field of view. You imagine billions of people unaware of the thin thread connecting them to you. The thought is both comforting and unbearable. One evening, you catch the commander staring at the air monitor longer than necessary. "All good?" you ask. He nods, then says quietly, "Feels like the air's thicker today." You check the readings, normal. Oh. You both know what he means, cabin fever pressing against the lungs. You start keeping a mental health log, a requirement of protocol, but also a secret map of your own descent and ascent. Day 34, mild insomnia. Day 35, increased irritability. Day 36, dreamed of rain again. You don't report the dreams, they feel too private, too precious. During a comms window, Earth sends new entertainment files. Movies, audiobooks, one playlist titled Songs for Solitude. You scroll through until you find David Bowie's Life on Mars. The irony's too good to resist. You play it softly through helmet speakers while checking exterior sensors. The song bleeds through static, lines about a girl with mousy hair and the lawman beating up the wrong guy. You hum along, realizing you've become the background lyric to your own science fiction. At night, you watch dust trails drift across the window like smoke. The silence deepens until it hums. You hear your heartbeat, mechanical and insistent. The psychologist once said, "Loneliness doesn't arrive all at once, it seeps." You finally understand, you start talking to Mars directly. Not in logs, not for data, just small murmured comments. "You're quiet tonight. That hill looks like an old dog's back." Sometimes you swear the planet answers, not with sound, but with timing, a flicker of light, a shift in wind. You laugh at yourself, but keep doing it. Conversation beats surrender. The commander notices, you chatting up the landscape. "Building rapport," you reply. "Tell it we come in peace." "I tried." It didn't answer. "Typical local," he says, and for a moment the old humour returns. Still, you worry about your mind's edges. The environment erodes sharpness, like wind sculpting rock. You find yourself forgetting small things, where you left a wrench, whether you logged oxygen levels. You compensate with checklists taped everywhere. The habitat looks like a child's study fort, notes fluttering under every light. It helps, marginally. During one sleepless cycle, you read a fragment from an old polar explorer's diary. Ernest Shackleton describing endless daylight as a tyranny of brightness. You smile grimly. Here it's reversed, a tyranny of dimness. Yet the psychology matches. Historians still argue whether isolation breeds madness or merely reveals it. You hope for the first, madness would feel too indulgent. The next day, the commander institutes Earth Hour. Once every sol or work stops for 60 minutes. No data, no maintenance. You just sit together and pretend. Someone imagines being in a cafe. Another reads a poem. You close your eyes and picture standing in a rainstorm, the smell of ozone thick as soup. For those 60 minutes, you almost believe it. But when the lights return, the ache returns too. The planet's silence presses close again, like a hand on glass. That night, you dream vividly. You're back on Earth, walking through a city after rain. Cars hiss on wet streets. Neon signs blur in puddles. You look up and see Mars shining overhead. Not red but blue, oceans glinting. You wake with tears floating weightless for a moment before the air filter catches them. You whisper, "Nice try, subconscious." You decide to share the dream during the next group meal. The commander listens, nods, says, "At least your Mars has weather." You laugh together, the sound echoing strange in the narrow dome. Laughter still works, thank every psychology manual ever printed. Later, while recording a routine log, you drift into confession. Sol 40. We're still functioning technically, but silence expands. It's like living inside someone else's paused breath. Historians may call this heroism. Feels more like waiting for the next line of a forgotten song. After sending the log, you float near the viewport. Phobos glides by, fast, irregular, a rock that can't decide whether to orbit or crash. You envy its indecision. Deimos follows later, slower, shy. They've been circling this planet for eons, always near, never touching. Companionship by distance, you understand them perfectly. The next morning, the commander announces new tasks. Routine maintenance, but with purpose. Motion therapy through busy hands. You clean filters, realign instruments, reorganize cables. The activity steadies everyone. Humans heal by tinkering. When you finally rest, exhaustion folds you gently. You lie in your bunk, the hum of machines blending with your breathing. For the first time in days, you don't feel the silence as threat but as invitation. Maybe the planet isn't ignoring you. Maybe it's just giving space to think. Before drifting off, you whisper, "Okay, Mars, I'll meet you halfway." The air recycler sighs in reply, a mechanical exhale that sounds almost like approval. You smile, eyes half closed, and think. The mind bends, but it also learns new shapes. Maybe adaptation is just a slower form of courage. The body always tells the truth before the mind admits it. You notice it first in the ache behind your knees, a dull complaint every time you stand. Gravity, or rather the lack of it, is rewriting your skeleton one quiet cell at a time. The health monitor on your wrist chirps cheerfully each morning, flashing bone density data that drops in decimal size. You ignore it until your thighs start trembling halfway through a repair walk. That's when the commander raises an eyebrow and says, "You're due for a med check, doctor's orders." Doctor's orders sound weightier when there's no doctor, only you and a machine. The medical bay is a small alcove of polished surfaces and polite lights. Instruments hum softly, blood analyzers, bone scanners, a robotic arm that looks like a friendly spider. You strap yourself in and start the scan. The display paints your skeleton in shades of ghost blue, your ribs like paper lanterns. The AI announces, "Osteopenia progression within predicted parameters." You sigh. Predicted parameters still mean you're dissolving, just as expected. You remember reading about the Mir cosmonauts in the 90s who returned to Earth unable to walk for weeks. Their muscles had forgotten gravity's language. One story claimed a cosmonaut dropped a wrench mid-repair and reflexively waited for it to fall. It just hovered, mocking him. Historians still debate whether that era's space medicine was more improvisation than science. You suspect improvisation never left. You begin the daily regimen. 2 hours of resistance exercise using elastic bands and a treadmill bolted to the floor. The harness tugs your shoulders painfully, but pain is proof of effort. You run, or rather bounce, feeling like a marionette learning choreography. Sweat beads against your skin, refusing to fall. It hovers, clinging to your hairline until you wipe it away. The commander jokes over comms, "At least you're getting your Martian beach body." You reply panting, "Wrong planet for bikinis." Humour burns calories too. After the workout, you float into the galley and drink a pouch of rehydrated electrolytes. It tastes faintly of metal, as everything does here. Your reflection in the silver surface of the storage hatch surprises you. Thinner face, sharper eyes, hair floating in static disarray. Survival chisels vanity down to recognition. Later, during equipment checks, you bang your arm against a console and curse. It's a small bruise, nothing dramatic, but the colour blooms too easily. Capillaries thin in low gravity. The AI suggests increased vitamin K intake. You mutter, "Add it to the list." The list has become your gospel. Calories, protein, calcium, sanity. Nightbird brings a new challenge, sleep cramps. Without gravity, your body can't decide what relaxation means. You drift half awake, limbs twitching. You dream of falling endlessly but never landing. The sensation equal parts terrifying and soothing. When morning comes, you feel brittle. The commander notices the limp in your step and offers a thermal patch. "Painkiller version, you ask?" He smirks. "Only flavour is regret." You apply it anyway, warmth seeping through the fabric like a memory of sunlight. As medic on rotation, you check everyone else's vitals. The commander's blood pressure has dropped slightly. One crewmate's sleep quality reads suboptimal. You nod knowingly. Everyone's battling invisible wear. You remember a quirky article about how spaceflight changes the shape of the human eye, slightly flattening the cornea. Vision drift, they called it. The headline joked about space myopia. You catch yourself squinting at screens more often now. Still, humour persists. Someone tapes a sign to the medbay wall. Clinic hours, all day, no days off. Beneath it, a doodle of a Martian holding a stethoscope. The commander adds, "House calls cost 1 ration of coffee." You laugh harder than it deserves. Laughter counts as medicine, unquantifiable but potent. Midweek, the biomonitor warns of rising CO2 levels in the sleeping quarters. You spend 3 hours recalibrating filters, crawling through vents like an irritated cat. By the time it's fixed, your muscles ache in unfamiliar places. The commander insists you rest. You sit by the viewport, massaging your shoulders, watching Phobos race across the sky. The moon's speed, circling Mars in just 7 hours, makes you dizzy to think about. Historians still argue whether Phobos will crash into Mars or break apart first. You hope to be long gone before either option plays out. To distract yourself, you review the medical data backlog. Heart rates, stress levels, muscle mass, all trending downward with monotonous precision. You record an observation. The body is obedient, even when the environment asks unreasonable things. Later, you inspect the emergency med supplies. Each packet feels like reassurance wrapped in foil. Antibiotics, analgesics, a single syringe of morphine for last resort scenarios. You stare at it too long, thinking of every exploration story that ended with a whispered apology in a morphine vial. Then you close the kit firmly, as if defying history. In the greenhouse, the plants seem immune to existential dread. Their leaves glisten, smug with the chlorophyll. You clip a few samples, check for fungal growth, none yet. The humidity keeps you sweating through your undersuit, but the smell is divine green and alive. You imagine one of these leaves ending up in a future medical textbook. First Martian-grown pharmaceutical plant, origin, Elysium planitia. The idea tickles you. Maybe someday these greens will heal more than hunger. During a rare idle hour, you conduct a microgravity experiment, blood droplets in suspension. You prick your fingertip, let one ruby bead float free, shining like a tiny planet. Under magnification, it wobbles with surface tension, refusing to break apart. "You're tougher than you look," you whisper. Then you catch your reflection in the lab glass and add, "Both of us." That night, and the sun the commander complains of a headache, dull and persistent. You check hydration levels, fine. Oxygen saturation, normal. Stress, you decide. You offer a pain patch and a few minutes of conversation. He accepts the first, resists the second. "Talk therapy is your specialty," he says with a grin. You grin back, but his eyes stay on the middle distance, following the thoughts he doesn't share. Mars gets inside everyone eventually. A few days later, you twist your ankle stepping off the treadmill harness. It's a minor sprain, but panic flashes anyway. Injury here feels exaggerated, like sin in a Puritan town. You wrap it tight, ice it with a cold pack from the med freezer, and hobble through duties. Pain is grounding, you tell yourself. Proof of body, proof of presence. During check-ins with Earth, you mention the incident casually. The mission doctor replies 20 minutes later. Monitor swelling. Avoid unnecessary movement. You laugh aloud. Unnecessary movement defines existence here. Even breathing feels like overexertion some days. By Sol 45, everyone's endurance dips. Reaction times lengthen. You institute stretching sessions, calling them Martian yoga. The commander humours you, balancing awkwardly in half-gravity. "If we don't break," he says, "we'll bend beautifully." You reply, "That's the plan." As weeks stretch on, subtle changes mark you. Fingernails growing slower, skin rougher from recycled air. Hair floats awkwardly, even when you're still, like static halos. You consider cutting it all off, but decide the ritual of brushing keeps you sane. Each stroke through the strands feels like reminding yourself you're still human, not a collection of metrics. You've begun to suspect that medicine here isn't about fixing the body, it's about convincing it to keep believing in Earth. Every pill, patch and scan whispers the same message. Hold the line. One evening, after running final diagnostics, you sit alone in the med bay. The room glows soft green from monitor lights. You rest your hand on the scanner pad. It hums faintly, reading nothing, offering comfort anyway. You imagine the millions of small biological negotiations happening inside you. Bones rebuilding slower, muscles whispering protests, cells recycling calcium like miserly accountants. You record an audio note. Sol 48, body adjusting to thinness. Pain localized, tolerable, we are machines learning our own maintenance schedules. You pause, add quietly, "Still human, though, I think." The next morning, the commander finds you stretching near the viewport and asks, "How's our medic?" You grin, held together by coffee and tape. He nods approvingly. Standard issue. Outside, the dawn spreads pale and uncertain, the frost on the horizon glinting like glass shards. You sip water from your pouch, recycled 1,000 times but somehow fresh each sip, and smile. Survival isn't glamorous. It's paperwork signed by muscles and lungs every day. You whisper to the planet, "Not bad for fragile creatures." The echo of your voice bounces off metal, merges with the hum of the air recyclers. and fades into steady rhythm, your heartbeat syncing with machinery at a gain. Somewhere deep in your bones, calcium still retreats. Somewhere deeper, resolve thickens in its place. You think, maybe that's the real adaptation. The body weakens while the will grows dense enough to stand in its stead. You close your eyes and breathe deliberately, counting the seconds between inhale and exhale, as though measuring the distance between home and here. Mars doesn't answer, but the silence feels almost kind tonight. It starts with the simplest thing, a hello that takes 40 minutes to come back, 20 out, 20 in, the light speed price of distance. At first you think you can adapt, that patience will stretch the same way your muscles have learned to stretch in low gravity. But waiting for a voice to return becomes its own gravity, a pull inside your chest. You send a message, hear yourself sound cheerful, professional, fine, then you float there, staring at the recorder light, wondering which version of you Earth will hear today's calm or tomorrow's unravelling. When the reply arrives, it's a time capsule from another emotional climate. Good work on the hydro samples, the controller says. How are you feeling? The question lands after you've already moved past the answer you gave days ago. You respond, but the rhythm is wrong. Conversations here are ghosts of themselves, voices chasing after echoes. The commander jokes that you're living in a long-distance relationship with 1 billion people. You laugh, but it feels like the kind of joke told to disguise confession. Each ping from Earth feels thinner, less immediate, like talking to a memory. Historians still argue whether early telegraph operators experienced a similar psychological lag, sending dots and dashes across oceans and mistaking time delay for intimacy. Maybe distance has always been a trickster. You begin timing your replies carefully, editing tone the way an actor edits breath. "Hi Earth," you say one night into the recorder, your voice softer than usual. "We're all fine here. Tired. Dust in the filters again. But that's life, right? You wouldn't believe how beautiful the sunsets are." You pause, then add quietly, "Miss you." The word sounds strange, too fragile for vacuum. When the transmission ends, silence floods the room. The hum of the recycler feels too loud. You float for a moment, staring at the console, waiting for the next message, even though you know it can't come yet. Humans, you realise, are wired for instant reflection. We crave mirrors. Here, mirrors take minutes. To bridge the lag, the mission psychologist suggested asynchronous conversation, recorded questions, delayed answers. You try it. One crewmate asks, "What's the first thing you'll do when you're back on Earth?" You answer, "Find a thunderstorm. Stand in it until I can't feel my fingers." The response won't reach them until tomorrow, when their question has already lost its urgency. But still, the act of speaking helps. The commander, pragmatic as always, turns the delay into ritual. Every morning he schedules Earth Hour, when the entire crew gathers to send updates. Scientific, personal, absurd. You each record a few minutes, little postcards of thought. Someone sings off key, another recites poetry. You once perform a mock weather report. Today on Mars, sunny, dry, with a chance of existential dread. Laughter fills the dome. The delay can't touch that. Later, when you play back Earth's responses, their laughter arrives. Late but sincere. It feels like correspondence with ghosts who are very much alive. But on quieter days, the lag feels heavier. You catch yourself rereading old messages the way people reread love letters. A familiar voice from home says, "We're proud of you," and for a moment the dome's walls seem warmer. Then you remember that pride is 20 minutes away, and loneliness sneaks in through the gap. One evening, you attempt a live chat with your sister. You both know it's impossible, but you try anyway. "Hey," you say, pause, 20 minutes later. "Hey, you look tired." Another 20. "Thanks, you too, kids okay?" Her laughter, delayed, fills the cabin half an hour later. Still loud, still sticky, you grin. Answer with a story about dust storms and salad leaves, but by the time her next reply arrives, you're already asleep. When you wake, her voice greets you like morning itself. The lag has turned conversation into dream sequence. The commander warns everyone to monitor emotional response cycles. The delay messes with time perception, so he says, "Keep journaling." You do. Each entry begins with the date and a note. 20-minute light lag, mood uncertain. In your journal, you record facts like comfort spells. Radio signal speed, 299,792 kilometers per second. Distance to Earth today, 182 million kilometers. Delay, 20 minutes, 10 seconds. Then you write what those numbers feel like, forever measured in decimals. You start talking to the AI more. Blanket, you say, how's our power level? Stable at 97%, it replies. Good. How are you? I'm operating within parameters, you chuckle. Me too. It's not friendship exactly, but it's call and response without the ache of waiting. Someone once told you that early sailors used to sing shanties to time their work, voices echoing across waves to fill the gaps between effort and outcome. You hum softly as you clean instruments, your own shanty for solitude. At night, you check the stars through the viewport. Somewhere among them is Earth, small, blue, bright enough to hurt your eyes. The signal delay suddenly feels like gravity in reverse. The universe expanding not outward, but between you and everything you love. You whisper, don't drift too far. The next message from Earth brings news. New funding approved, a second mission scheduled, an updated anthem for humanity's expansion. The PR team wants a live feed of you all smiling. You and the commander exchange looks. They want real-time inspiration from a 20-minute delay, he mutters. You both laugh, but it's a weary laugh. The distance between achievement and understanding is wider than space itself. After recording the smiling video, you retreat to the grow dome. The plants don't care about communication lag. They respond instantly to light and water. You sit among them, listening to the faint drip of condensation. You're lucky, you whisper. Your conversations happen at the speed of roots. You remember a line from a 19th century letter you once read in a history class. Virginia Woolf writing to her sister, letters are among the most significant memorial a person can leave behind them. You think about that while composing your next message to Earth. Maybe the delay isn't a curse. Maybe it's a way of leaving little time capsules behind. Your next transmission is different. You speak slower, more deliberately, choosing words for endurance instead of immediacy. If you hear this later than planned, you say, know that it was peaceful here today. The air smelled like dust and plastic. The lettuce survived. I did too. You stop the recording and replay it. Your voice sounds calm, distant, older. The 20-minute echo is no longer a wound. It's a kind of meditation. Still, loneliness prowls in small moments. During maintenance one morning, your glove brushes a bolt and a spark of static jumps. Harmless, but the sound startles you. For a second, you think someone's calling your name. When you realize it's just electricity, you laugh, then cry, both quietly. The tears drift. Tiny bubbles caught by the fan. You watch them spin until they vanish. To cheer yourself, you invent a new hobby, delay poetry. Each message to Earth ends with one line, part of a larger poem they'll piece together over time. Sol 53, the red horizon hums in minor keys. Sol 54, silence arrives slower than sound. Sol 55, even echoes deserve company. The commander eventually notices. Cryptic as usual, he says, you're going to confuse mission control. That's the point, you answer. On Sol 57, Earth's reply contains a surprise. The psychologist stitched your poem fragments into a single piece and sent it back, recited by different voices. It plays through the speaker like a chorus of distant friends. You listen twice, 3 times, eyes stinging. Guess they heard me after all, you whisper. That night, before sleep, you record one final message for the day. Connection is weird, you say softly. We keep thinking it's about speed, but maybe it's about persistence. The signal gets there eventually, and that's what matters. You pause, listening to the ship hum around you. The machinery speaks instantly, perfectly reliable. Still, you realize the delayed voices matter more. They prove that time hasn't swallowed you yet. You end the recording with, "Good night, Earth. Talk soon, whenever that means." Outside, the planet turns in silence, patient as always. Somewhere across the void, your words are still traveling, still mid-sentence. For the first time, you find that comforting. Some messages deserve to take the long way home. You wake one morning to the sound of possibility, the low murmur of the commander and science officer arguing in the comms bay. The words reach you in fragments: atmospheric density, greenhouse ratios, feasible in 2 centuries. You float closer, coffee pouch in hand, pretending not to eavesdrop. The phrase that hooks you comes quietly: terraforming model revision. terraforming. The word rolls through the habitat like a forbidden spell, half science, half sacrilege. You take a sip of lukewarm coffee and grin. Humanity never stops thinking about rearranging things that don't belong to it. Later, during briefing, the commander presents the updated projections. Satellite data shows carbon dioxide pockets trapped beneath the southern polar cap, potential reservoirs of greenhouse gas that, if released, could thicken the air. In theory, he says, we could jumpstart a new atmosphere. The phrase lands heavy. You look out the viewport, where the horizon glows thin and cold. In theory, you repeat softly. The scientist in you thrills, the human hesitates. What right do you have to rewrite a planet? Historians still argue whether the first irrigation of Mesopotamia was brilliance or hubris. The debate's older than cities. You imagine future scholars debating this meeting, replaying your recorded expressions as if they were scripture. After the briefing, you suit up for external survey duty. The airlock opens to a world that still doesn't need you. The dust shifts lazily in weak wind, sunlight glinting off frozen ground. You kneel to collect soil samples, but your mind keeps circling the idea. Mars reborn. What would it sound like, you wonder, when the first raindrop hits this dust? Would it hiss, or would it seg? You think back to your training days, to lectures about the atmosphere's fragility. Even on Earth, terraforming had already begun, unintentional, relentless. The greenhouse gases that melted glaciers also made you experts in planetary chemistry. Maybe this project isn't colonization, maybe it's repentance. Inside the rover, you open the external comms and record a thought for your log. Sol 61. Humans dreaming of fixing the universe with the same hands that broke their first world. You chuckle at your own melodrama, but the truth in it lingers. The proposed first step is small. Deploy microbe cultures genetically designed to metabolize perchlorets in the soil and release oxygen as a byproduct. Synthetic lichen, basically, tiny terraformers in petri dish form. You hold a vial of the pale green mixture, swirling it slowly. It looks harmless, like soup, but under the microscope, the colonies shimmer, wriggling in rhythm, life or the next best imitation. You test the sample in the small external lab, introducing it to Martian dust within a sealed chamber. The system logs temperature, pressure and chemical output. Within hours, a trace of oxygen registers. Minuscule, almost laughable, but real. You tap the display, whisper, "Breathe for us." The commander joins you, peering over your shoulder. "You realized," he says, "we just changed the planet's chemistry." You grin. "Barely." He shrugs. "That's how all revolutions start." You both fall silent, watching the tiny gauge tick upward. Later, during dinner, the conversation turns philosophical. Someone asks, "If we change Mars, does it stop being Mars?" You consider it. Does a garden stop being Earth when you plant it? The commander counters, "But this garden can't consent." You laugh softly. "Neither could the Sahara." The debate spirals gently, more curiosity than conviction. Historians still argue whether the Enlightenment was arrogance or curiosity. You suspect the difference depends on who's alive afterward. That night, you lie awake, imagining the red world turning green. You picture moss creeping over rocks, air thickening, frost melting into streams. Then you imagine footprints disappearing under grass. The dream is both beautiful and terrifying, like watching a ghost come back to life only to realize it never asked to. The next morning you take the rover toward a ridge for panoramic mapping. The sun sits small and white in a copper sky. You scan the horizon, flat plains, scattered boulders, nothing that cares about oxygen or photosynthesis. Still the thought persists. Someday. You park near a cliff edge and step out, suit systems humming softly. The wind catches loose dust, lifting faint swirls that dance across the plain. They look almost playful. You imagine them whispering, "Leave us alone." You whisper back, "We're trying to make you warm." A data ping interrupts your reverie. Atmospheric pressure slightly higher than predicted. You frown. The models must be off, or maybe the dust storm last week redistributed CO2 pockets. You record it anyway. Each anomaly is another breadcrumb on the trail of transformation. During the drive back, you play an old audio file from Earth, a lecture by Carl Sagan, his voice gentle and patient. Mars, he says, is a possible home, not yet a home. It invites responsibility as much as imagination. The recording clicks off. You exhale into the helmet, fogging your visor. Responsibility, you repeat. The word weighs more than the suit. Back at camp, the crew tests another batch of synthetic microbes. This version glows faintly blue under ultraviolet light, a visual marker for success. You dim the lab lights, watching the samples pulse like tiny constellations in a petri sky. It's mesmerizing. Creation in miniature. The commander jokes, "And on the seventh sol we rested." You reply, "Too soon?" The experiment's data transmits to Earth for verification. By the time feedback returns, the microbes will either have thrived or died. You wonder which outcome would make you sadder. That evening, you record another personal log. Sol 63, terraforming trials initiated. Feels like playing God with tweezers. Historians still argue whether Prometheus was punished for theft or thanked for innovation. I'm voting both. You pause, smiling at the absurdity of quoting mythology inside a dome on Mars. End log. Outside, night drops quickly. The thin atmosphere scatters starlight without twinkle. You step out briefly to check the external sensors. The world is still red, but the light feels softer, almost blushing. You glance upward at Phobos racing past, Deimos following like a hesitant thought. "Do you approve?" you ask them. Only silence answers. Later, you gather with the crew in the galley. Someone's downloaded a simulation from Earth, a digital rendering of future Mars after full terraforming. You project it onto the dome's inner wall. The image glows blue and green, oceans filling basins, forests hugging equators, clouds drifting lazily. The habitat lights dim to match the illusion. For a moment, you could almost believe you're there. "Looks like home," someone whispers. You disagree silently. It looks like nostalgia wearing new colours. You wonder if any of you will live to see it. The timeline says centuries. But perhaps seeing the dream is enough. Humanity's always been sustained by futures it won't reach. After the simulation ends, reality returns. Cold, red, thin, you all sit quietly, not in disappointment but in reverence. The commander breaks the silence. "Even if it never happens," he says, "someone has to start the story." You nod, staring at the empty mugs floating gently near the table. Then we're the prologue. Before bed, you wander into the grow dome. The plants glimmer softly under magenta light. You kneel beside them, touch a leaf, and whisper, "Don't worry, we're not replacing you, just giving you cousins." The condensation on the walls slides down like rain pretending to happen. You close your eyes, imagining the sound of real drops hitting soil, the scent of petrichor in Martian air. It's almost tangible. When you open your eyes, the magenta glow has turned your hands violet. For a fleeting second, it looks like you're already part of the transformation, half Earthling, half Martian. You smile at the thought. In your journal, you write one final note before sleep. Sol 64, we plant microbes the way poets plant metaphors, hoping one will take root in the future. You pause, then add, "If Mars ever grows forests, may they whisper that we meant well." Outside, the planet spins indifferently, ancient and unhurried. Inside, the habitat hums like a heart that believes in tomorrow. And you, wrapped in recycled air and improbable hope, drift to sleep, dreaming of green horizons and rain that will someday find its way down. You notice it happening during breakfast. Someone mentions the ghosts in the dunes, and nobody laughs. It isn't superstition, exactly, just the slow birth of myth. Humans can't live anywhere for long without inventing stories to keep themselves company. Here on Mars, myths sprout faster than lettuce. The commander insists the noise he heard outside last night, soft, rhythmic taps against the dome, was thermal expansion. You're not so sure. You heard it too, that steady pulse like knuckles on glass. Could have been rocks shifting, you offer. He nods, relieved you chose science over spectres, but part of you wonders, if the planet ever did have a heartbeat, would it sound like that? At lunch, someone retells the story of the face. You all know it, the blurry satellite image from 1976 showing a human visage carved into the Cydonia region. When NASA released higher resolution photos decades later, the face dissolved into shadows and geology. Still, the legend refuses to die. Maybe it was real before erosion, your crewmate jokes. You counter, or maybe erosion's just good at covering embarrassment. Everyone laughs, but the silence afterward lingers like static. Historians still argue whether the face on Mars sparked more public interest in space than the actual Viking landers did. You suspect it did. Mystery sells better than data. People want stories, not spectrometers. You glance at your own reflection in a coffee pouch and think, we brought myth with us, sealed inside our oxygen tanks. During downtime, you scroll through the ship's archive of old Pulp Fiction covers. Silver rockets, damsels in space helmets, bug-eyed Martians wielding ray guns. The art is ridiculous and perfect. You imagine the artists painting Mars without ever seeing it, inventing the colour from rumour. In their worlds, Mars was teeming with life, canals, civilizations, even romance. Now you sit on the real planet, surrounded by sealants so deep it could swallow an orchestra, and you almost wish they'd been right. One evening, the commander starts a campfire of sorts, a digital flame looping on a tablet, to accompany dinner. Someone suggests you take turns telling Martian legends. You go first, spinning the tale of the Dust Eater, a creature born from static storms that prowls between domes, feeding on lost radio signals. When transmissions go missing, you say in your best eerie whisper, it means the Dust Eater's hungry. The crew applauds ironically. The commander contributes a story about the Red Widow, a phantom astronaut who haunts faulty airlocks. She knocks twice, he says, and if you answer, she takes your breath literally. Everyone groans. PG-13 ghost stories only, someone mutters. These tales multiply over the next week. Myth becomes morale. You discover that fear, when narrated, turns into laughter instead of panic. It's an ancient trick. Still, there's truth hiding inside the humour. You've all started anthropomorphizing the planet, calling the storms her tantrums, the cold her moods. It's easier to negotiate with a personality than with physics. One night you write in your journal, we are myth-making mammals. The only way we survive emptiness is by giving it a name. Outside, the landscape encourages imagination. The rocks themselves seem sculpted by intention. Arches, spires, faces. You take the rover out for an afternoon survey and find a boulder shaped uncannily like a reclining figure. You photograph it from several angles, half expecting it to shift when you're not looking. Pareidolia, the commander says over comms, the human tendency to see patterns in chaos. You prefer hope. The science officer who studied ancient civilizations tells you over the dinner that even before telescopes, humans linked Mars to gods of war. We always needed him angry, she says. A calm Mars didn't sell what prayers. You nod, thinking of how every culture used the red dot in the sky as a mirror for its fears. Babylonians calling it Nergal, Greeks Ares, Romans Mars. Different names, same bloodlust. Funny, you say. We named it for war, but now it's peace that might kill us. Silence, not swords. She smiles sadly. Maybe gods evolved too. Later, while cataloguing rock samples, you play old radio dramas from the 1930s. In one, a terrified announcer reports an alien invasion, the War of the Worlds rebroadcast. You imagine listeners back then, hearts racing, believing Martians had landed. The thought warms you. Fear connects generations better than love ever does. Historians still argue whether Orson Welles intended panic or performance. You suspect both. When the comms delay stretches too long and messages from Earth arrive sporadically, the myths start filling the gap. One crewmate swears they saw lights moving near the horizon. Blue, flickering, deliberate. Another claims to hear faint music in the static. You all pretend not to believe, but secretly check your senses twice. The human brain, deprived of noise, invents symphonies. The ache logs anomalies automatically. Photic illusion detected. Likely lens artifact. You read the report and grin. Even the machine feels compelled to rationalize. At night, while checking the external temperature gauges, you pause by the window. The desert glows faintly under starlight, a monochrome sea. For a heartbeat, you imagine the dunes shifting into shapes, figures walking slowly across the plain. When you blink, they're gone, replaced by stillness. Ghosts again, you whisper. The word doesn't sound silly anymore. You remember a fringe theory from the 1890s, Italian astronomer Giovanni Schiaparelli describing canali, channels he believed he saw through his telescope. The translation into English of canals had triggered decades of speculation about intelligent builders. It turned out to be an optical illusion, lines formed by the mind connecting craters, but those imagined canals gave birth to entire literary empires. Burroughs, Bradbury, Asimov, all mining that misunderstanding. You think about that as you clean dust off the instrument panel. One mistranslation launched a century of wonder. You whisper, "Thanks for the typo, Giovanni." In quieter hours, the myths turn inward. Each of you begins dreaming more vividly. Shared imagery of rivers, cities, familiar skies tinted red. The psychologist on Earth once warned about environmental dream contagion. You'd laughed then. Now you understand. The brain keeps painting the same world until it looks like home. One evening, you wake to the sound of laughter from the galley. The crew is watching an ancient sci-fi movie. Martians with rubber masks invading Earth. You join them, seated cross-legged on the warm floor. The creatures on screen wobble, roar and dissolve under laser fire. Everyone cheers at the campy absurdity. Then, during a quiet scene, someone mutters, "Maybe we're the invaders after all." The line lands like a truth you've been avoiding. Later, you record a log entry, Sol 70. The planet's too empty to resist, so we fill it with stories. Maybe myth is the only atmosphere we can make fast. You close the recorder, stare at your reflection in the viewport, helmet under your arm, eyes tired. For a second, you see not yourself, but a character from one of those old pulp covers. The brave explorer, the dreamer, the intruder. You wonder how many myths you've already become. Outside, a faint wind brushes against the dome. The sound is low, almost human. You tilt your head, listening. It repeats, 3 quick taps. You smile and whisper, "Good night, Red Widow." The silence that follows feels approving. Before sleep, you flip through photos of your rover trips. The boulder that looked like a reclining giant, the shadows shaped like faces. You mark them in your personal folder, artifacts of imagination. Future historians will catalogue them as geological formations, but to you they're proof that even on another planet, humanity still dreams in familiar outlines. As the lights dim, the dome creaks softly with thermal stress. You let the sound lull you, half mechanical, half heartbeat. Somewhere deep beneath the crust, ancient water may still trickle through frozen channels. You picture it moving slowly, carving whispers through stone, and think maybe the planet really does speak. Just on geological time, you drift towards sleep with a final thought. Myth isn't falsehood, it's translation. The brain trying to make meaning out of silence. Mars gives you plenty of silence. You give it stories in return. You wake to the sound of dripping. For a heartbeat, you think it's a dream. Water, impossible water, striking metal somewhere in the dome. But when you open your eyes, it's only condensation sliding down the inner wall, fat droplets plunking into a catch tray. Still, the sound sparks something deep in your chest. Even simulated rain can fool your memory. You lie there listening, eyes half closed, pretending it's a roof back on Earth and not a thin membrane separating you from vacuum. Today's assignment sits waiting on the schedule tablet. Subsurface scan, Sector N11, the dry delta plain northeast of camp, a site that satellite imagery calls Eberswalder Crater, famous even back home for the faint fan-shaped deposit that once looked suspiciously like a river delta. If any place on Mars ever held life, it's there. You eat your breakfast paste without tasting it, excitement fizzing under the fatigue. The commander notices and grins. "Looking for fossils again, dreamer?" You shrug. Someone's got to talk to the ancestors. The rover ride takes 2 hours across uneven terrain. Outside the windows, the landscape shifts from flat ochre plains to ridged terraces carved by long-dead flow. The sun hangs small and white, its light cutting the world into surgical contrast. Bright edges, endless spore. You imagine the river that once ran here, thick and red with iron dust, winding like an artery through stone. The thought gives you chills. Historians still argue whether that ancient Martian water ever reached the surface or simply seeped, shy and subterranean, beneath the crust. Either way, its ghosts remain. You park near a gully rim and suit up. The airlock opens with its familiar hiss, and the first gust of Martian wind brushes your suit like static. The air outside smells faintly metallic through the filters, like wet coins and ozone. You kneel beside a rock layer streaked in white veins. Ice, maybe salt, maybe memory. You set the portable drill against it, the vibration running up your arm like anticipation. The bit bites into stone. Red dust curls upward, soft as smoke. You collect the powder in sterile vials, each labelled with solemn precision. N11A1, N11A2. Science is really just labelling hope. After an hour, you switch to the ground-penetrating radar unit. The screen flickers with colour bands, red for rock, blue for void, green for anomalies. A faint arc appears beneath your feet, a curve where none should be. Hollow, maybe a cavern. You glance at the commander. That looks like an underground channel. He nods slowly. Could be, or could be wishful geology. You grin. My favourite kind. You angle the antenna. Pulse again. The signal echoes longer this time, bouncing through something less dense than stone. Water ice, definitely. The commander whistles softly. If we dig there, we'll hit the good stuff. You reply, that's what they said in California. He groans. Wrong century, wrong gold rush. Back in the rover, you log the readings, tagging them for future drilling missions. The numbers feel heavy with implication. Buried rivers, hidden aquifers, proof that Mars once held enough warmth to weep. You imagine microbes drifting through those waters, tiny architects building homes from clay minerals. Maybe they're still there, fossilized mid-gesture, waiting for light. During the drive back, you remember the meteorite called ALH 4001, found in Antarctica, traced to Mars by trapped gas isotopes. In 1996, scientists announced they'd seen microscopic structures inside it, bacteria-like shapes, nanometer fossils. The world went wild for a week before skeptics pulled the rug. Contamination, they said, or just weird crystals. Historians still argue whether that stone carried life or only longing. You whisper to yourself, maybe both. The return journey feels shorter. You spend it gazing out the window, watching shadows creep across the dunes like slow ink. A dust devil dances in the distance, thin as smoke from a candle that never quite goes out. You catch yourself thinking, if I were a bacterium, I'd hitch a ride on that and call it migration. At camp, the lab airlock greets you with its chemical tang. You unload samples into the analysis chamber. The spectrometer hums, lasers scanning the dust for organics. You watch the graph climb, carbon detected, sulfur, trace nitrogen. The trifecta of maybe. Your pulse jumps. Come on, you whisper. The machine obliges with a soft beep and a new line of text. Complex organic compounds, possible biogenic origin. You freeze, then you laugh, loud and unbelieving. The commander peers in. Talk to me. You turn the display so he can see. He whistles again, longer this time. That's either life or one hell of a chemistry set. You nod. Either way, it's company. Protocol demands confirmation, repetition, restraint. You run the test twice more, then send the data packet to Earth. It'll take 14 minutes to leave orbit, 20 to arrive, countless could do more to analyze. But for now, in this sliver of time between discovery and debate, you allow yourself joy. You float around the lab, weightless in spirit if not in physics, humming nonsense. That night, the crew celebrates with rehydrated cocoa and bad jokes. Someone toasts to the bacteria that beat us here. You raise your pouch and add, and to the ones that stayed polite enough to leave fossils. Laughter fills the dome, loud and human. For the first time in weeks, the air feels thick with warmth. Later, alone, you replay the sensor data again. The waveforms look almost musical, rising, falling, repeating patterns. You imagine they're whispers in a language of minerals. You whisper back, we hear you. Sleep refuses to come easily. The mind loops the what-ifs. What if life never left? What if it hides, waiting for warmth to return? What if you're the intruder waking something that preferred extinction? In the half-dream haze, you see rivers flowing again, clear and cold. Pebbles gleam beneath ripples. Translucent organisms drift like jellyfish in miniature. The sun above is still pale, but the sky glows faintly blue. You reach into the water and feel it bite with chill. When you pull your hand out, it's covered not in liquid, but in dust, dry and endless. You wake with a gasp. Morning brings more tests. You grind one rock sample to powder, mix it with sterile water, watch under the microscope. Tiny bubbles form, then vanish. Chemical, probably. Still, your heartbeat doubles. You whisper, move again. Nothing does. Over breakfast, the commander cautions against excitement. Could just be organics from meteor impacts. You nod, pretending to agree, but deep down you feel something shift. Whether the molecules are alive or not hardly matters. Their existence means the line between sterile and fertile is thinner than anyone thought. That evening, Earth finally replies. Preliminary analysis confirms complex organics consistent with ancient biotic activity. Further verification required. The message arrives wrapped in bureaucratic caution, but you read between the lines. You found something real. The crew breaks into the cheers. For once, you let yourself believe the optimism. The commander logs the finding officially. Eberswalder crater. Possible biosignatures detected. History with an asterisk. When the excitement fades, quiet returns. You wander to the viewport and stare at the horizon where you drilled. It looks the same, flat, red, indifferent, yet now it feels populated, as if invisible witnesses stir beneath the crust. You press your palm to the glass and whisper, "Thank you for surviving." You remember reading that water carved not only valleys, but also memory into rock. Minerals preserving the story of evaporation and return. Maybe the planet's entire surface is a diary written in dried ink. Maybe you've just turned to the right page. The commander joins you, silent for a while. Then he says, "If they did live here once, do you think they'd recognize us as kin?" You smile faintly. Maybe. Or maybe they'd see us as another layer of sediment. He nods. Fair. That night, while the habitat hums in its steady rhythm, you record a final entry. Solsen, we may have found traces of Martian life, or at least the echo of its breath. Historians will argue forever, but for this moment, belief feels justified. Water remembers, even when it freezes. So do we. You close the recorder, sit in the dim magenta glow of the grow dome, and listen. The condensation drips again, steady and delicate. Somewhere beneath your feet, ice shifts in ancient veins. You imagine it murmuring to itself, repeating the same word over and over, still. And for the first time since you arrived, you feel that Mars might not be dead at all, just sleeping, dreaming beneath its crust, waiting for someone foolish enough to listen. You first hear the argument through the thin walls of the comms bay, a clipped exchange about property rights disguised as logistics. The commander's voice is low, patient. The science officer's sharper, brittle from exhaustion. They can't just assign coordinates like real estate, she says. We haven't even finished mapping the area. The reply, Earth Command says the licensing helps funding. Investors like ownership. You sit on your bunk, staring at the ceiling, feeling the old, familiar story resurface. People find new worlds only to divide them. Outside, the dawn is calm, the frost still unbroken. You suit up and step out, needing distance. The air is knife clear, the horizon infinite. No borders, no fences. Yet in your helmet's heads-up display, the GPS overlay already marks territories. Hab Sector Alpha surveys Zone Omega. Cartography precedes conquest. You kneel to adjust a sensor beacon and mutter, "At least the rocks don't care who owns them." The conflict begins small, like most human quarrels. A transmission from a corporate liaison back on Earth claiming partial patent over the microbe cultures you released weeks ago. Intellectual property, the message insists, extends beyond terrestrial boundaries. You laugh out loud in disbelief. The commander doesn't. "We'll have to respond officially," he says, rubbing his temples. "They're calling it the first interplanetary trademark dispute." You can almost hear lawyers salivating across 200 million kilometers. At dinner, everyone vents. "They want to trademark life," one crewmate says. "What next? Copyright the sunrise?" Another suggests selling naming rights to the craters. You raise your pouch of rehydrated stew like a toast. To capitalism, the only life form that definitely survives in any atmosphere. Laughter breaks the tension, but unease lingers. Historians still argue whether the age of exploration taught humility or greed. You suspect both. The parallels are too neat. Flags on beaches, treaties and signed by people who never left their palaces. You look around the habitat's cramped walls and realize it's already happening again, only redder. A week later, a new transmission arrives. The Pacific Alliance Orbital Group, a consortium of nations, announces its own mission, scheduled to land within 5 years, pending site coordination with current occupants. Occupants. You taste the word like dry dust. The commander reads the message twice, then says softly, "Congratulations everyone, we're officially settlers now." That night, the crew divides into quiet factions. Some see expansion as validation. The more humans hear, the safer, the louder the story. Others, including you, feel protective of the silence you've learned to love. You imagine dozens of domes sprouting across the plains, neon lights blinking under thin air. The thought is both thrilling and obscene. To distract yourself, you take the rover toward a ridge for geological sampling. The ride helps, motion always does. The radio crackles with background chatter. Earth bureaucrats discussing resource rights like distant gods arguing over chess pieces. You turn the volume down until their voices fade into static. At the ridge's crest, you stop and climb out. The landscape spreads beneath you, craters overlapping like fingerprints, valleys carved by long-dead rivers. You lift the visor's shade and stare. This world feels ancient enough to shame every human quarrel. You whisper, "No one owns you." The wind answers with silence thick enough to believe. Back at camp, the commander briefs everyone on new regulations. Earth Command wants continuous data sharing. No more private logs. You glance instinctively toward your tablet, where your journal entries, half confession, half insomnia, sit encrypted. Even personal notes, you ask? He hesitates. Technically, yes. You feel the anger bloom quietly in your chest. Colonization always begins with paperwork. Over the next days, the dome feels smaller. Conversations grow careful. You catch yourself editing sentences mid-speak, trimming emotion for compliance. The AI, Blanket, notices behavioural shifts. Crew stress indicators rising 10%, it reports. You mutter, "Welcome to bureaucracy, Blanket." It replies, "Acknowledged." You find relief outside, working alone on the solar array. The dust is still settling from last week's storm, coating panels in fine rust. As you wipe them clean, you think about the first Antarctic research bases, temporary outposts that slowly turned permanent. Historians still debate whether they were scientific miracles or territorial stakes in disguise. Mars will follow the same path, you can feel it. During a rare live conversation, 20-minute delay and all, you ask the psychologist on Earth how to manage resentment. Her voice returns later, calm and clinical. Focus on collective goals. Remember, individual discomfort builds institutional resilience. You snort. Institutional resilience, good name for a rock band. The next morning, new orders arrive. Expand operations 2 kilometers east to begin site prep for potential secondary habitats. The commander divides assignments. You volunteer for scouting, craving solitude disguised as duty. The terrain eastward feels different. Softer dunes, scattered basalt outcrops shaped like ancient monuments. You stop near one and rest your gloved hand on the stone. It's smooth, polished by eons of wind. You imagine earlier explorers here, not human, maybe microbial, claiming the same patch of ground, leaving chemical graffiti invisible to your eyes. Ownership written in molecules instead of maps. That evening, when you transmit coordinates for the new base, you hesitate before sending. You type a note under your breath. Please don't ruin this place, then you delete it. Some messages aren't meant for bureaucracies. Back at camp, tension simmers. 2 crewmates argue over data release schedules, another over the ethics of introducing more microbes. The commander steps between them, patience thinning. "We're scientists," he says, "not conquistadors." You admire the sentiment, but don't believe it. Humans are both, always. You find peace again in small rituals, checking the plants, cleaning the air filters, whispering goodnight to the AI. The lettuce thrives, at least someone's untroubled. You record a quiet log. Sol 83, the colony learns politics faster than photosynthesis. Historians will someday map our arguments like continents. Outside, a new storm brews on the horizon, faint but rising. You step into the airlock and watch through the small window as dust spirals upward. The planet's indifferent weather makes your disputes seem microscopic. You murmur, maybe the wind should own everything. Later, during dinner, the commander proposes writing a shared charter, a code of conduct before more missions arrive. Everyone agrees in principle, though enthusiasm fades once wording begins. Scientific neutrality becomes cooperative stewardship. Non-ownership becomes temporary custodianship. The language folds like origami around unspoken agendas. You add one clause anyway. The planet owes us nothing. No one objects. They just look tired. After the meeting, you linger by the viewport. The horizon is a black line against rust-red twilight. You picture future ships landing there, white dots expanding into cities. Children born under lower gravity, their laughter drifting slower through thin air. The image is beautiful, until you imagine them asking what it looked like before humans changed it. What will you tell them? That Mars used to be quiet enough to hear your own heartbeat echo? You sleep restlessly, dreaming of maps printed over skin, coordinates tattooed across continents. In the dream, you try to wipe the ink away, but it smears into red dust. Morning brings bureaucracy's answer to insomnia. More forms. Planetary Preservation Protocol Addendum 5. You sign electronically, half amused that even rebellion now comes with receipts. The commander jokes, if they ever make a flag, it'll just be a barcode. Still, hope sneaks in. When the second shift begins building the new outpost, you design a simple plaque. No logos, no flags, just a line etched into metal. Here, humans remembered humility for a moment. You bolt it to the support strut when no one's looking. Maybe someday someone will find it and understand. That night, you stand outside as the temperature drops below a 90 degrees Celsius. Frost gathers on your visor, scattering the faint light of the moons. Phobos races overhead. Deimos follows slowly, patient and small. You whisper, "Don't let us turn this place into paperwork." The moons mercifully don't answer. Inside, you update your journal. Sol 86. The colony grows teeth. Conflict is inevitable when survival meets ambition, but even bureaucracy can't cover the stars, and for now, they're still free. You set the tablet aside, stretch in the dim magenta light, and close your eyes. The hum of machinery blends with your breath. Mars doesn't care about your charters or your ownership disputes. It will bury them under dust, layer by layer, until even the arguments fossilize. You smile at the thought, a sleepy kind of defiance, and whisper, "Good night, unclaimed world." Outside, the storm reaches the edge of the plain, sweeping across your footprints and erasing every trace of human direction. The planet redraws itself again, perfectly blank, perfectly whole. The announcement arrives without ceremony, tucked inside a routine data transmission. You almost miss it, one short line among 100 numbers. Earth alignment optimal, launch window T minus 42 sols. You read it twice, heart thudding with disbelief. Home is now a scheduled event. For weeks, Mars has been the only sky that mattered. You'd begun to forget that orbits are choreography, that planets must bow toward each other just so for the engines to make the journey back. Now, suddenly, the countdown begins. 42 sols until departure. 42 days to say goodbye to a place you spent months convincing yourself wasn't trying to kill you. The commander calls a crew meeting. His tone is clipped, rehearsed, maybe hiding relief. Our retrieval vessel will enter orbit in 6 weeks. We'll prep ascent vehicles, pack samples, and dismantle the auxiliary dome. Any personal items you can't carry will stay. He pauses, looking around the table. You've all done something extraordinary. The words sound official, sterile, like they've been sent from Earth and practiced in mirrors. You smile politely, but something twists under your ribs. When the meeting ends, the crew scatters, some to inventory, some to solitude. You linger behind, staring at the projected flight path on the wall. The thin white arc from Mars to Earth looks impossibly small. Distance reduced to geometry. You whisper, "That's all it takes to erase a year of dust." Outside, the landscape glows pale under late afternoon light. You take the rover for a slow drive, no destination, just habit. The horizon seems wider than before, the colours sharper, as if the planet knows you're leaving and wants to make one last impression. The wind kicks up faint spirals of sand that trail after the rover like ghosts waving goodbye. Historians still argue whether early explorers of the Antarctic felt relief or grief when rescue ships finally appeared. You think you understand both now, the strange guilt of surviving an alien place long enough to abandon it. Back at camp, the commander begins system tests on the ascent module. Its hull gleams under the floodlights, freshly dusted, obedient. You run your hands along its smooth surface. "You sure it still wants to fly?" you ask. "She's been patient," he replies. "Let's not make her regret it." The next few sols blurt into routine, checking oxygen tanks, calibrating engines, sorting rock samples. Every action feels both purposeful and absurd. You pack the vials from Eberswald crater carefully, labeling each with reverence. Possible biogenic structures. Handle gently. The words make you smile. Handle gently, as if that could ever describe humanity. During breaks, the crew talks about what they'll do first upon returning. The science officer wants to swim in a real ocean. Another dreams of a steak cooked over open flame. You can't decide. Maybe you'll just walk outside without a suit. Feel air press against skin. Maybe you'll find a tree and stay under it until it gets dark. Still, part of you resists the idea of leaving. Mars has become a strange companion, harsh, silent, honest. You think of the myths you invented, the microbes you planted, the arguments that felt enormous under such a small sun. The planet has watched you all perform your little human rituals and never once applauded. You respect that. One night you climb to the ridge above camp. The stars blaze like frost scattered across black velvet. Phobos streaks overhead, bright and restless. Deimos trails far behind, slow as a sigh. You record a message for yourself. Sol 92? The return window opens soon. The thought of leaving feels heavier than the gravity waiting back home. You sit in the dust for a long time, tracing patterns with your gloved hand. The ground is cold, but beneath it lies ice older than all of human history. You whisper, "I'll miss your malence." When you return to the habitat, the commander is running final communications tests. Earth wants confirmation of cargo load capacity, he says. They're already arguing about what to prioritize, samples or equipment. You raise an eyebrow. Guess they're not packing sentiment. He chuckles. Never do. The following days bring a strange mixture of busyness and stillness. You dismantle the auxiliary dome, the first structure you built on Mars. As panels come loose, the interior empties of sound, leaving echoes that vanish too quickly. You pause, listening to your own breathing fill the space that once buzzed with human presence. When the last wall comes down, you feel like you've erased evidence of a dream. That evening, during dinner, someone plays music, soft piano through tinny speakers. The notes drift through recycled air, tender and fragile. Farewell soundtrack, someone jokes. You laugh, but the melody lingers long after the power-down chime fades. On Sol 95, you wake before dawn. The habitat lights are dim, the air unusually still. You slip into your suit and step outside. The horizon glows faintly blue, a rare phenomenon caused by fine dust scattering light. One of Mars' few inversions of Earth's colour palette. You stand there watching it, breath fogging inside your visor, and think, maybe this is what goodbye looks like from the other side of the sun. You spend the next few hours walking the perimeter one last time. The frost crunches under your boots, the sound small but satisfying. Near the old drill site, you stop and crouch. The hole is partly filled with dust. You reach out, brush the rim clean and whisper, "Sleep well, little fossils." The wind doesn't answer, but the silence feels affectionate. Back inside, you begin organising personal items. The rules are strict, mass limited to a few kilograms per person. You debate what to take, your handwritten journal, a rock from the crater, the leaf you pressed between two data sheets weeks ago. In the end, you choose the leaf. It's fragile, imperfect, and smells faintly of chlorophyll and machine oil. You tuck it into your suit pocket. The commander holds a briefing that night. The ascent will take 15 minutes to reach orbit. Rendezvous with the return vessel in 90. No mistakes, no dramatics. We've survived worse. Everyone nods, pretending nonchalance. But you can see it in their eyes, the same tight mix of longing and fear. Leaving survival behind feels unnatural. After the meeting, you linger in the grow dome, the air thick with humidity and the faint scent of life. You stroke a leaf and murmur, "Keep breathing after we're gone." Maybe the AI will maintain the systems for a while. Maybe the plants will outlast your footprints. The idea comforts you. As the countdown shortens, sleep becomes restless. Dreams of oceans, wind, and open skies flood your nights. Sometimes you wake convinced you can hear waves against the dome. The psychologist's voice from an old recording echoes in your mind. Returning home can feel like another form of exile. You believe her now. Finally, Sol 100 arrives. The crew suits up in silence. The ascent module stands ready, its surface glinting under a weak sun. You run one last check on the habitat systems, fingers lingering on switches you've memorized. When the power-down command executes, the lights fade slowly, as if the dome itself is reluctant to sleep. You step outside, closing the airlock for the last time. The habitat sits behind you, half buried in dust, already blending into the landscape. "She'll disappear by next winter," the commander says softly. You nod. Everything does here. Climbing into the ascent craft feels like betrayal and relief all at once. The seats are narrow, the interior sterile. Through the viewport, you see the horizon stretching infinite, red, indifferent. The engines hum to life, vibrations rattling through your bones. The commander's voice cuts through the static. 3, 2, 1. The thrust pins you against your seat. The ground drops away, shrinking fast. The dome becomes a speck, then nothing. You catch a final glimpse of the crater rim glowing under sunrise, then only clouds of dust rising in your wake. As the atmosphere thins, the sound fades. The hum becomes silence, the planet retreating below like a fading ember. You exhale, slow and shaky. "See you in the footnotes," you whisper. When the capsule reaches orbit, the sun bursts through the window, blinding, golden, merciless. The commander reports to Earth, voice steady. "Ascent complete, en route to rendezvous." The words hang in the cabin like magic incantations. You unclip your harness and float for a moment. Weightless again. Below, Mars curves against the black, its polar caps glinting white. For the first time, it looks small enough to hold. You reach toward the window, palm out, and imagine feeling its pulse through the glass. "Thank you," you whisper. In the quiet that follows, the only sound is the faint hiss of air circulation. Home waits 42 million miles away, spinning patiently. You close your eyes and let gravity's memory return. The first thing you notice is how quiet space sounds after Mars. No wind, no dust brushing metal, no hiss of grit on your visor, just the steady breathing of the ship and the click of your heartbeat in your ears. The return vessel glides through blackness so complete it feels like the universe has exhaled and forgotten to inhale again. You drift in your harness, watching the red marble shrink in the rear cameras until it becomes a rust-coloured star. That's home too, you think. One of them, anyway. The commander's voice breaks the silence. "Course plotted. Burn in 5 minutes." His tone is all professionalism, but you can tell he's feeling it. The small ache of detachment. You whisper, "Goodbye, old rock," under your breath. Though the comm picks it up, he smiles faintly. "Try not to get sentimental before we hit halfway." The engines ignite. For a few moments, gravity pretends to exist again, pressing you gently into the seat as the vessel swings onto its interplanetary arc. Outside the window, Mars glows like a distant ember behind a trail of vaporized fuel. Ahead lies nothing but mathematics, 54 million kilometers of waiting, the great curve of celestial geometry that returns you to the cradle you left. For the first day, everyone is busy with post-launch routines, system diagnostics, medical checks, data uploads. The work feels comforting, the illusion of control after so much uncertainty. You run inventory on the samples, vials from Eberswalder crater, sealed leaf fragments, soil tubes labelled in your careful handwriting. Each container floats neatly in 0G, tiny reliquaries of another world. You whisper to them, "Don't spill the secrets yet." By the second day, quiet creeps back in. The routines finish, the adrenaline ebbs, and you're left with the hum of machinery and the endless view outside the porthole. You think of the early astronauts during the Apollo era, how they described Earthrise as a religious experience. Historians still argue whether that image did more for environmentalism than any policy ever could. You wonder if anyone will feel the same when they see Mars set, a red sun sinking behind black infinity. Sleep comes strangely in transit. The body, confused by zero gravity and artificial day cycles, drifts between dozing and waking, like a buoy on calm water. Dreams are a mix of both planets. Red deserts merging into blue oceans, dust storms dissolving into thunderstorms. In one dream, you stand on a beach that smells faintly of iron, watching twin moons dip into the horizon. When you wake, your pillow has floated halfway across the cabin. On Sol 18, though time feels meaningless now, the first comms from Earth arrive. Telemetry solid, mission control says. Trajectory nominal. You're making good time. The delay is only a few minutes now. The shrinking gap feels luxurious, intimate. You reply, "Still in one piece, still caffeinated." The controller laughs, distant but warm. That sound, however faint, fills the cabin like fresh air. Later, while the commander sleeps, you drift to the viewport. Earth is still invisible, but you know she's there, bright as promise on the other side of the sun. You press your palm to the glass. "We're coming," you whisper. You spend hours cataloguing your physical changes for the medical logs. Muscle mass down 2%, bone density holding steady, pulse slower, dreams faster. You record the data dutifully, though it feels like describing someone else. The body has become a temporary vessel, an apartment you'll soon vacate. To keep minds sharp, the commander schedules daily conversations, cognitive maintenance, the psychologist called it. Sometimes you debate trivial things, favourite constellations, best movies about space, the proper temperature of coffee. Sometimes the talk drifts philosophical. Do you think Mars misses us? A crewmate asks. Planets don't miss, you answer, but part of you hopes they do. One night you read aloud from an old Earth file, a passage from Ray Bradbury's The Martian Chronicles. His Mars was full of glass cities and telepathic ghosts, humans haunted by their own reflections. He got the loneliness right, you say. The commander nods. He always did. Halfway through the journey, you hit the point of perfect balance. Mars behind, Earth ahead, gravity equal nowhere. It's the loneliest coordinate in existence, a silence inside a silence. You float near the window listening to the ship's slow pulse. Outside, the stars don't twinkle. They burn with surgical precision. You imagine your ancestors looking up at the same lights, never guessing their descendants would pass between them. To mark the midpoint, you all open a pouch of preserved wine, one ration, one toast. The commander raises his straw. To halfway homes, you add, and halfway gods. Everyone laughs because even exhaustion can't dull human ritual. Afterward, you record a message for Earth. Sol 117. We've crossed the midpoint. Space is quieter than any cathedral. Sometimes I think silence itself is the universe's native language, and we're just learning to pronounce it. You pause, then add softly, tell the oceans to wait up. As distance shortens, the transmissions from Earth grow clearer. They send news, politics, birthdays. You listen to snippets of world life with detached fascination, traffic, music, and laughter. The sounds feel like artifacts, souvenirs from a museum labelled Human Civilization, ongoing exhibit. Still, emotion catches you off guard. One morning, a recording from your sister plays, her kids yelling, "Come home soon," over the noise of rain on a rooftop. You close your eyes and let the sound wash through you. Rain tour. That most ordinary miracle. You whisper, copy that even though no one can hear. Days stretch, elastic and slow. Exercise routines, medical scans, data analysis, then repeat. The monotony becomes meditative. You find yourself watching condensation gather on the inside of a water bag, the droplets merging, separating, drifting, whole weather systems in miniature. Then gradually the cameras pick up a speck of blue. At first it's just a pixel, a colour too vivid for the void. You stare at it for minutes before realising you're holding your breath. Is that, someone whispers. The commander nods. Earth. The word feels fragile, like the first note of a song you've forgotten the melody to. Each day the blue grows larger, wrapped in white swirls of cloud. You watch it between tasks, unable to stop. It's beautiful and terrifying, that small sphere carrying everything you've ever been. You think of the famous photograph from Apollo 17, the blue marble, and how it changed humanity's sense of scale. Historians still argue whether seeing home from the outside humbled us or just fed our vanity. You suspect both. As the ship decelerates, gravity returns in faint whispers. Muscles protest, bones remember their purpose. You relish the discomfort. It means you're becoming human again. The commander briefs everyone on re-entry procedures, his tone brisk but eyes tired. No heroics, he says. Just follow the checklist and enjoy the ride. You smile. Define enjoy. He smirks. Survive with style. That night you can't sleep. The cabin lights are low, Earth glowing in the viewport like a promise you're not sure you can keep. You unstrap, drift closer and whisper, "We left you red dust and brought back questions. I hope that's enough." The final day in transit feels endless. You pack the last of the samples, check straps, tighten seals. The ship hums like a giant heartbeat. Every so often you glance at the window to make sure the planet's still there, afraid it might vanish like a mirage. When Mission Control's voice finally arrives, you're on final approach. The words strike you harder than you expect. You answer automatically, copy that, then quieter. It's good to hear you live. The commander signals burn sequence. Engines roar, your body remembers weight. The vessel shudders, plasma blooming outside the windows and curtains of orange fire. Through the vibration, you glimpse continents, shapes too familiar to process. You're falling toward home, wrapped in... aim. In those minutes of descent, your thoughts splinter. The hum of Mars's wind, the glow of red dust. The green shimmer of your first lettuce leaf, the silence after the storm, all of it blurs together, a symphony of gravity and longing. Then comes the jolt. Parachutes deploy, the roar dies, silence again, but a different kind, thicker, full of atmosphere. You inhale, taste oxygen unfiltered for the first time in a year. It burns sweetly. You land with a soft thud. The capsule tilts, then steadies. Outside, voices crackle through radio, triumphant and chaotic. You undo your harness, hands trembling. The hatch opens, light floods in, real sunlight, warm and heavy. You step out, knees buckling under gravity's forgotten weight. The air smells of soil, salt, life. You laugh, or maybe sob. It's hard to tell which. The commander claps your shoulder. "Welcome back, traveller." You look up at the blue sky, impossibly wide, and whisper, "Feels smaller than I remember." They tell you the landing was perfect, that every parameter behaved exactly as the models predicted, but your body disagrees. Gravity hits like an old debt being collected. You spend the first few hours swaying on legs that feel like strangers, skin prickling at the pressure of air. Every breath tastes too rich, full of the invisible weight. You joke to the medic checking your vitals. "Too much atmosphere, can someone dial it down?" She laughs politely and notes something on her tablet. Everyone's professional, efficient, and quietly starstruck. You are technically history in progress. The recovery team ferries you to the debrief facility. White walls, filtered sunlight, the faint hum of air conditioning that feels indecent after months of recycled air. They've prepared everything to look comforting. Potted plants, photos of oceans, even the smell of rain piped through vents. You inhale deeply, and the memory of Mars floods back anyway. Sterile dust, metallic dryness, the silence that made every breath sound like a confession. Doctors prod, psychologists probe, bureaucrats congratulate. Their question all circle the same point. What was it like? You try to answer honestly about the stillness, the red storms, the feeling of speaking to a planet that never replied. But the words come out too neat, trimmed for press releases. The truth is messy. Beauty wrapped in fear, awe that flirted with despair. You start saying it was loud in its quiet, and watch them nod as if that makes sense. When you finally step outside, real outside, sunlight blinds you. It's warmer than you remembered, thick as syrup. The grass under your boots bends and springs back. You crouch and touch it, fingertips trembling. It's absurd that this soft green thing feels alien now. The commander chuckles beside you. "Welcome home, Martian." You grin, but inside the phrase stings. It's too accurate. The world hasn't paused in your absence. Screens blare news about new missions, new discoveries, the slow bureaucratic ballet of funding and politics. Children wave flags with the mission's insignia. Companies use your images to sell technology. You watch it all with a strange detachment. Mars, the quiet world, has become loud again, colonized by commentary. Historians already argue whether your expedition marks the start of a new era, or just another echo of the old one. One article calls you the last true explorers. Another labels you the first expansionists. You don't correct either. Both are probably right. You spend weeks in rehabilitation. Treadmills, muscle therapy, sunlight reacquaintance. At night you dream of low gravity, of floating through dust instead of air. Earth feels too heavy, too loud. Even rain, that miracle you longed for, hits windows like small repetitive arguments. Your first speech to the public takes place in a glass auditorium overlooking the sea. The crowd rises when you enter. Flashbulbs glitter like tiny meteors. You speak slowly, still measuring words in Martian cadence. "We went to another world," you begin, "and found it patient." You describe the silence, the fragile microbes, the discovery that survival and reverence are sometimes the same act. You end with, "Mars doesn't need saving, we do." The applause rolls like surf. Afterward, people approach with questions, gifts, even tears. One child asks, "Did you see aliens?" You kneel, smile and answer, "Only in the mirror." The room laughs, but you mean it. Humanity looked at Mars and saw itself reflected in red dust. Curious, reckless, hopeful. When you return to your quarters that night, exhaustion weighs heavier than gravity. You open the small case that holds your keepsake, the single pressed leaf from the dome, its colour faded to bronze. Under it lies a pinch of Martian soil sealed in glass. You hold both together and realise they belong to the same story now: life and landscape, Earth and elsewhere. Sometimes you take evening walks by the ocean. The sound of waves still startles you, their chaotic rhythm foreign after months of mechanical hums. You catch yourself counting seconds between crashes, as if timing the pulse of a living planet. The air smells of salt and decay, an ecosystem breathing around you. You whisper, "Good to see you again," and the wind, ever theatrical, answers with a spray of mist across your face. Letters and messages arrive from strangers. Some thank you for proving humanity can reach beyond itself. Others accuse you of the arrogance of playing God. You read them all, smiling faintly. The commander once said, "Exploration is the art of making everyone uncomfortable, including yourself." He was right. One afternoon, the mission psychologist visits for a final evaluation. "Do you miss Mars?" she asks. You think for a long moment, then say, "Every quiet second." She nods knowingly and checks a box on her tablet. You add, "But I don't want to go back. Missing it feels safer than returning." Your days settle into something resembling normal. You teach, consult, record documentaries. You learn to sleep through thunderstorms again. Yet sometimes, halfway through mundane routines, grocery aisles, crosswalk signals, crowded elevators, you feel a sudden vertigo, as if gravity might vanish and the world tilt back toward the red horizon. You smile each time it passes. That's just your mind remembering lighter days. One evening you receive a message from the second Mars crew. Their landing succeeded. They've found your plaque near the dismantled dome. Here, humans remembered humility for a moment. The commander of the new mission adds a note. "We tried to remember too." You stare at the words for a long time, heartbeat echoing the hum of machines long silent. That night, you dream not of Mars as you left it, but of a version changing without you. Lichen spreading across stone, ice melting into trickles, a faint haze thickening the sky. It's beautiful, and you wake smiling. Maybe dreams are the only kind of terraforming that happens fast enough to matter. Morning comes bright and ordinary. Coffee steams in the air, sunlight glints off the ocean. You realise that life, whether on Earth or elsewhere, always begins the same way, with a fragile breath and the courage to keep taking another. You step outside, tilt your head back and see Mars faintly in the daylight sky, tiny red, patient. You raise your hand in greeting. "Still here," you whisper, and for a moment you swear the silence answers. So now you lie back, letting the thought of distance stretch out like a slow exhale. Two planets turning, both smaller than they once seemed, both still whispering across the black. You imagine yourself drifting between them, suspended in that long corridor of gravity and memory, where sound fades and breath becomes the only language left. The hum around you softens, the same tone the air recycler made in the dome, the same rhythm the ocean keeps outside your window. The boundaries blur. Maybe you never really came back. Maybe part of you still wanders that red horizon, tracing footprints that the wind keeps erasing. That's all right. Every journey leaves its echo somewhere. The muscles in your shoulders loosen, your heartbeat slows to the planet's pace. You picture frost forming a sheen on the rocks, pale blue under sunrise, and the faint shimmer of new life waking beneath the dust. You tell yourself the story one last time. You went there, you listened, you returned. The rest will take care of itself. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let the room drift wider than gravity allows. Inhale slowly, exhale slower. The universe is still turning and you are safely home.